Welcome to tonight's stream, where I do something that is either very clever or an absolutely terrible idea. Probably both. So what is this? Basically, tonight I'm going to be playing a bunch of my stories, and before each one, I'm going to talk about why I wrote it, where the idea came from, what I was trying to do, what was going on in my head at the time, and in some cases, what the actual fuck possessed me to write this in the first place. Because some of them are normal horror stories. Some of them are emotional horror stories, and some of them are this started as a joke and now somebody's dead. And one of them is a diss track, which isn't really a horror story at all, but it was fun and necessary. In my head, anyway. So yeah, this is basically a horror story breakdown stream. A behind the scenes stream. Why the hell did I make this stream? And honestly, I wanted to do this because people hear the finished story, but they don't always hear the messy bit behind it. The bit where the idea first crawls out of the swamp. The bit where I'm sitting there thinking, this is brilliant. Then 5 minutes later, this is shit. Then 10 minutes later, thinking, no wait, unless I make it worse. Which, creatively, is usually where I thrive. So the plan tonight is simple. I tell you about the story. I play the story. You listen. And then I do it all over again. I'll talk about the writing, the inspiration, the scenes that mattered most, the bits I nearly cut, the bits that changed halfway through, and the occasional moment where I fully committed to a line or a concept and then had to sit with the fact that I apparently live like this. And occasionally, the bits where I had to repeat 9 words 6 times because I couldn't say them. Now I know not everybody gives a shit about the process. Some of you are here for the stories. Some of you are here for the creepy vibes. Some of you are here because you clicked my channel once and now YouTube keeps throwing me at you like an algorithm thread. And that's fine. So to help you skip my rambling if you want to, I'll be adding the timestamps. That way, if you just want the stories, you can just jump straight to them. And if you do want the behind the scenes bits, the writing breakdowns and my deeply professional analysis of my own unhinged decisions, that'll be marked too. See? Organised. Suspiciously organised, actually. Don't get used to it. Tonight's lineup is a proper mixed bag of chaos. We've got He Was Already in the Lodge, the Centre Parks horror story, because apparently even wholesome woodland holidays can be ruined if you try hard enough. I ignored the message on the glass, I think I'm in trouble, which already sounds like somebody made at least 3 bad decisions before the story even started. Why I ripped every smart device out of my walls, for those of us who enjoy a bit of paranoia with our modern convenience. Who Killed My Friend? Yes, that one. Yeah, I wrote it. No, I'm not explaining myself yet. I bought an old radio from a garage sale, and it won't stop broadcasting my death. Which is what happens when people in horror stories refuse to just leave old haunted shit where it is. Why you shouldn't always obey the emergency alert, because nothing says comfort like government-issued panic. I bought a £5 memory box at a yard sale. It should have stayed buried. Long title, very rude object, terrible outcome. The Easter Bunny brought me 4 eggs and killed my whole family. Festive, family friendly, absolutely not. And finally, YouTube demonetized me, so I made a diss track. Because at some point I clearly looked at my life and thought, you know what this situation needs? Petty rhythm. And honestly, I stand by that. What I wanted to do with this stream was make it feel a bit more personal. Not just, here's a story, bye. But more like, here's the story, here's why it exists, here's what I was trying to do, here's what was going on underneath it, and here's the point where everything came together beautifully, or went completely off the rails and somehow still worked. Which, if we're honest, is also a decent summary of me as a person. So if you're in the chat, say hi, lurk if you want, judge me quietly if you must. That's fine, I can take it. I can't take it, I'll cry. And if you enjoy this kind of thing, I can do more of these, because I've written a frankly stupid number of stories at this point, and apparently my solution to that is not to rest, but to make a 5-hour event where I dissect my own brain in public. Healthy. Very healthy behaviour. Right then. Prepare yourself for horror, chaos, poor life choices, and far too much access to my creative process. Let's begin. So this first story came to me while I was on a relaxing holiday in Center Parcs, as all normal sane ideas do, in the bath. And that's where the thumbnail came from as well. Because who doesn't sit with their phone in the bath and think, ooh, bubbles, thumbnail. Anyway, I thought, how can I turn this relaxing bubble bath with questionable jet placement into a very uncomfortable horror story? I was just sat there, trying to relax, bubbles everywhere, jets doing whatever the fuck they were doing, and my brain, instead of being normal, went, how can I ruin this? So then I started thinking, what if someone was alone in a lodge, having a nice, peaceful bath, feeling all cosy and safe, and then they realised someone had broken in, and instantly it stopped being relaxing and became one of those horrible situations where you're at your most vulnerable. You're naked, you're trapped, you've got no dignity left. And suddenly a nice little woodland holiday has turned into a panic attack with plumbing. And that's what really got me with this one. No gore, no monsters, not some massive dramatic apocalypse. Just that really simple, horrible feeling of you're alone and someone's already inside. That was the bit that made my own skin crawl, because how vulnerable would you be in that moment? How scared would you be? How much danger would you actually be in? And more importantly, should I have sought professional help the second this idea arrived? Probably. But instead, I wrote a story. And the visuals for this one were filmed by me in our actual lodge, while I tried to very strategically dodge the other 5 people in the lodge, who were all just looking at me like, what the fuck are you doing? I was just creeping round corners, filming doors, lurking near windows, trying to make a family holiday look sinister. Meanwhile, they were probably thinking, why aren't we going swimming? And honestly, valid question. But no, instead of enjoying a break like a normal person, I was walking around the lodge harvesting tension. Which in fairness did work. So yeah, this one basically came from me taking a perfectly relaxing setting and asking, how fast can I make it feel unsafe? And apparently, the answer is very fast. So here you go. Welcome back. Yes, that's me in the bath. And yes, this story came to me while I was in the bath at Center Parcs, which is not ominous at all. Carry on. My family went out without me that afternoon, and I stayed behind for a bath. That was the deal. 1 hour, maybe 2 if I was lucky. They were all desperate to go off and do something energetic and wholesome. Swimming, I think, or badminton, or some other family holiday activity designed to make children louder and adults wetter than necessary. I'd spent the entire morning trudging through rain, smiling at ducks that looked like they had opinions, and pretending I was enjoying fresh air, while my socks slowly absorbed half of Cumbria. By the time we got back to the lodge, all I wanted was heat, silence, and one uninterrupted soak in a bath that nobody needed from me. "Aren't you coming?" Aid asked from the doorway, already half into his coat. "No," I said. "I love you all very much. But if I hear one more person say ma'am in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to walk into the lake and let nature finish the job." Sam laughed. Ava rolled her eyes. Lou just stared at me with the hood of her coat up, looking like a tiny witness in a criminal trial. "You're dramatic," Ava said. "I'm exhausted," I corrected. Aid smiled. "We won't be long. Take your time," I said. "In fact, stay out all day, reconnect with each other, grow, bond, leave me in peace." He snorted and leaned back in through the door. "Lock it after us." "I will." They piled out in a chaos of shoes, coats, shrieking, and whatever arguments Sam and Lou were having about whether badges existed. The door slammed. I heard their voices getting fainter outside. Then the crunch of wet gravel, then nothing. Real.
actual nothing. It was glorious. I locked the front door. I remember that clearly because I tried the handle twice after I'd turned the key. Then I checked the back doors as well. One habit years of motherhood had drilled into me was that if you wanted peace, you secured it properly. I checked the windows too, mostly because it was getting gloomy outside, and the trees around the lodge were doing that thing where they looked beautiful and sinister at the same time. Then I ran the bath. The bathroom was warm and a bit cramped, but in a cozy way. The mirror fogged up almost immediately. The fan hummed overhead. I poured in far too much bubble bath because I was alone, and no one was here to judge me. And within minutes the tub looked like a cloud had died in it. I got in, lowered myself slowly into the water, and actually groaned. It was the first proper moment of peace I'd had all day. No voices, no footsteps, no one asking where the snacks were, or who'd packed their goggles, or whether ducks could bite. Just hot water, steam, and the distant patter of rain against the lodge windows. I closed my eyes. I must have been in there about 5 minutes when I heard the floor creak. At first I ignored it. These lodges made noises. That was part of the charm, apparently. Wood expanded, pipes clicked, wind rattled things. Holiday places always sounded a bit alive in a way normal houses didn't. Then I heard it again. A definite step. Not in the bathroom. Somewhere out in the main part of the lodge. I opened my eyes and listened. Nothing. I sat up a little. Enough to make the water lap softly against the sides of the bath. "Aid," I called, not loudly. Casual. "Forget something?" No answer. I waited, expecting to hear him laugh and say yes, or for one of the kids to shout through the door, or for someone to clatter into the kitchen looking for a towel or inhaler, or some other vital item they'd absolutely sworn they had with them 30 seconds earlier. Instead, I heard a cupboard door open. It was a small sound, but unmistakable. A dull wooden thump, then the light scrape of hinges. My stomach tightened. I sat very still. The cupboard was in the kitchen. I knew that because we'd put all the cereal and crisps in there earlier, after Lou had tried to open every packet in one go, and Sam had nearly knocked a box of Weetabix onto the floor. That sound was not nearby. It was on the other side of the wall. "Ed," I called again, sharper this time. Silence. Then a second cupboard. A slower one. Open. Shut. The hairs rose on the back of my neck. The thing about fear is it doesn't always arrive dramatically. Sometimes it turns up quietly and sits down beside you, and by the time you realize it's there, it's already made itself at home. I told myself there was a simple explanation. One of the kids had come back. Housekeeping. Some idiot from the lodge next door had got the wrong place. Anything but the obvious. Still, I reached for my phone on instinct. It wasn't there. I'd left it on the little shelf beside the sink, just out of reach. I stared at it through the steam, about 2 feet away, and somehow impossible to get to, without standing up and sloshing water everywhere. I remember thinking, absurdly, that I should have put it closer. That was the first practical thought my brain offered up in the middle of what was rapidly becoming the least relaxing bath of my life. Another creak. This one closer. Not the kitchen now. The living area. A slow footstep. Then another. Someone was inside the lodge. I sank lower in the bath without even meaning to, as though bubbles and hot water could somehow hide me. My heart had started hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. I stared at the bathroom door. It wasn't locked. I'd shut it, but I hadn't locked it. Why would I? I'd been alone. I could get out. Obviously, I could get out. Grab a towel, run, scream. But the second I moved, the water would crash against the bath. The shower curtain would scrape. The floorboards would creak under my weight. If whoever was out there hadn't known exactly where I was yet, they would the moment I stood up. The footsteps stopped. I realized then that I'd been clenching every muscle in my body so tightly that my leg had started to cramp. A sharp knot of pain grabbed my calf. I bit the inside of my cheek and held still. The silence that followed was worse than the noise. At least noise told me where they were. Silence meant listening. I watched the bathroom door so hard my eyes started to sting. After a few seconds, maybe 30, maybe 3 minutes, I heard the faintest little scrape outside. Not footsteps this time, more like fingers brushing the wall. Then the handle moved. Just slightly. Not enough to open the door, just enough to push it down and release it again. My whole body went cold despite the bath water. Whoever it was knew I was in there. That tiny movement told me everything. They weren't confused. They weren't checking if the room was empty. They were being careful. My breathing turned shallow and stupid. I tried to control it, terrified they'd hear even that. I looked at my phone again. Still on the shelf. Still maddeningly close. If I stretched, I might be able to grab it without standing. But the bath was slippery and full, and if I shifted wrong, I'd send a wave over the side. My mind started doing the worst thing possible, which was offering scenarios. A burglar. A drunk. Some creep who'd seen the family leave and decided to try his luck. Someone who'd been in here before we got back. That last thought hit me so hard I nearly made a noise. Because the footsteps, when I replayed them in my head, I couldn't actually swear the first sound had been the front door. I'd assumed that. I'd heard a creak and built a story around it because it made me feel better. But what if the first sound hadn't been the door opening? What if it had been movement inside the lodge? A floorboard, a cupboard, a person shifting their weight in the dark while I was just down the hall getting undressed, assuming I was alone. Something bumped lightly in the living room, then the bathroom door moved. Not fast. Not all the way. Just a soft inward creep. No more than an inch. Steam breathed through the gap. I could see nothing beyond it except a slice of dim hallway and the edge of the coat rack. No shape. No face. I didn't move. I don't know how long I sat like that. Time got strange. The water cooled around me. My skin prickled. My leg cramped again. And I thought I might genuinely black out from trying not to react. At one point I heard breathing. I know how that sounds. I know exactly what people say when someone tells a story like this. Pipes, water, your own panic, the fan, the wind. It was breathing. Not mine. Too slow. Too steady. Close enough that it sounded like it was just the other side of the door. I had one clear thought then, and it was stupid and simple. If the door opens any further, I'm getting out. Didn't matter if the water splashed, didn't matter if I slipped, didn't matter if I had to run naked through the lodge covered in foam like some deranged swamp creature. If that door opened, I was moving. The handle dipped again. The door crept another inch. I could see more of the hallway now. The end of the runner rug. One of Sam's trainers lying on its side where he'd kicked it off earlier. Then, slowly, a shadow crossed the gap. Not the full shape of a person. Just enough to block the weak light from the living room for a second. I stopped breathing. The shadow moved back. My entire body was shaking now, tiny involuntary tremors that made the water quiver around my shoulders. I bit my lip so hard I tasted blood. I thought of shouting, but fear does odd things to logic. I was terrified that if I yelled, and it wasn't loud enough, if my voice cracked or they got to me before anyone outside heard, I'd have done nothing except announce I was panicking. Another soft sound came from the hall, a step, then something that made every hair on my body stand up. A chuckle, low, brief, male, I think, amused. That was the point my brain gave up pretending I could stay calm. I lunged for the phone. The movement sent water smashing against the sides of the bath. It slopped over onto the tiles with a loud slap. My shoulder hit the side of the tub. I caught the shelf with my fingertips, fumbled, nearly dropped the phone into the water, then clutched it to my chest. The bathroom door flew inward. I screamed. A man stood in the doorway. I only saw him properly for a second. Dark jacket, hood up, rain on his shoulders, big enough to block most of the frame. His face was partly shadowed, but I remember the grin, not wide, not wild, just a horrible little grin like we were sharing a joke. He took one step into the room. I did the only thing I could think of and hurled the phone at his face. It hit him somewhere around the cheek or shoulder, not hard enough to do real damage, but it made him flinch. I was out of the bath before the splash had even settled. Water went everywhere. I slipped, slammed into the sink, grabbed the towel from the rail and wrapped it around myself with hands that barely worked. He was swearing now, moving towards me, and I reached blindly for anything I could use as a weapon. My hand closed around one of those heavy ceramic soap dispensers. I screamed again, louder this time, proper full-body noise, the kind you don't plan. And then, through the lodge, I heard voices. Children. The front door banging open. "Mom?" For one frozen second, all three of us seemed to register it at once. The man turned his head. I swung the soap dispenser and caught him across the side of the jaw. He staggered back into the doorframe with a grunt. I shoved past him, slipping on the wet floor, and ran screaming into the hallway wrapped in a half-falling towel and bubbles. Aid came through the front door just as the man bolted towards the back of the lodge. Everything after that turned into noise. Aid shouting, the kids screaming, the back door slamming, footsteps outside, Sam crying, Ava swearing she'd seen him, Lou clinging to my leg and asking if it was the badger. I was shaking so hard I couldn't answer anyone. Aid wanted to chase him. I screamed at him not to. Proper screamed. I don't think I've ever sounded like that in my life. Something in my face must have convinced him, because instead he locked the doors and pulled the curtains while Ava rang reception and then the police. They came quickly. Faster than I expected. 2 officers, both soaked through, both trying to stay calm in the face of 3 panicked children, 1 half-dressed woman, and a husband who looked about 30 seconds from kicking every door in the county off its hinges. They searched the lodge, then the area outside. They found muddy footprints near the back decking, a smear of water on the bathroom door where he'd pushed it. My phone cracked in the hallway. One of the kitchen cupboards open. They asked if anything was missing. At first, we didn't think so. Then Ava found my handbag tipped out under the spare room bed. Not rummaged through casually. Moved. Hidden. That was what got me. Not the footsteps. Not the grin. Not even the bathroom door opening. That. Because it meant he hadn't just wandered in while I was bathing. He'd been in the lodge before that. Maybe while we were out in the morning. Maybe while we were eating lunch. Maybe while I was joking with the kids and checking the windows and running the bath, convinced I was making myself safe. He was already there. The police tried not to say it outright, but I could see it on their faces as they went through the rooms again. Under beds, behind doors. The wardrobe in the spare room. One of them asked, very carefully, whether I'd heard anything before I got into the bath. I said no. That was a lie, because later, long after they'd gone, after the statements and the shaking and the kids finally falling asleep in one room because none of them wanted to be alone, I remembered something. Just before I'd turned the taps on, I'd paused in the hallway because I thought I heard a soft thud from the spare room. I'd smiled to myself. Thought it was one of the kids messing about. I'd even said, "Very funny," under my breath. Then I'd opened the bathroom door and stepped inside. I still take baths now, just not when I'm alone in the house. And never, ever, until I've checked every room. Twice. Because the worst part of that day wasn't realizing someone had come into the lodge while I was trapped in the bath. It was realizing, much later, that he'd probably been in there listening to us the whole time, and that when I first heard movement, he wasn't entering. He was deciding whether to come out.
Hi everyone. Thanks for listening.
Stop.
What?
Is this true?
No, it's just a story I wrote.
Then why were you taking suggestive pictures of yourself in the bath?
Authenticity? This one also came to me in the same holiday, because apparently I wasn't allowed one peaceful wash without my brain trying to ruin it. This time I was in the shower. Yes, I know, bath and shower, very fancy, very posh. Try not to be intimidated. And while I'm in there, minding my own business, "I can see you" appears on the glass. Genuinely. This isn't me being dramatic. I'm not even making shit up for content. It actually happened. I even filmed it because, obviously, when something creepy happens, my first instinct is not safety, it's evidence. Look. And I remember just standing there, absolutely starkers, in a locked bathroom, thinking, who the fuck can see me? Because that's the horrible bit, isn't it? You know the doors are locked. You know you're in there alone. You know there shouldn't be anyone there. And yet suddenly it feels like there is. So then my brain started doing what it does best and making everything worse. Do I leave? Do I stay here? Do I strike a pose? Do I panic? Or do I just turn it into a horror story? Obviously, I wrote a horror story. Because once I had that image in my head, I couldn't leave it alone. That one line on the glass was already creepy enough, but I started thinking, how do I make this worse? And then the answer, apparently, was eyeless kids. Obviously. Because if something unsettling happens, and I have the opportunity to make it deeply more uncomfortable, apparently I'll take it every single time. And the footage for this one was again filmed at Centre Parks, because in the name of authenticity, I kept it in the same place. Also, because I was already there. And if I'm being honest, because I couldn't find any genuine footage of eyeless children. Shocking, I know. So I had to make do with what I had, which is really the theme of half of horror creation, if we're really honest. Take one real life moment, add paranoia, add some nightmare fuel, and just keep asking, how much worse can this get? So yeah, this one started with me in the shower, naked and confused, staring at a message on the glass like I was about to get murdered by condensation, and ended with me thinking, brilliant, let's dramatically escalate this.
And it's based on true events.
No, it is not.
Fine. It's based on one true event. The steam fogged up the shower glass this morning, and someone had written, "I can see you" on it. I'm not even joking. So anyway, enjoy the trees. Here's your nightmare. I know how this sounds. If I was reading this from someone else, I'd probably assume they were either exaggerating for attention or had let their imagination run away with them after too much wine and one too many horror films. I wish that was all this was. I'm posting because I don't really know what else to do. My husband thinks I'm stressed, my sister believes me but has no explanation, and I've now had 3 nights in a row of almost no sleep because something followed us back from Center Parcs. Yes, I know how ridiculous that sounds. We were there for a short family break. Me, my husband, our kids, and my sister. Just a normal few days away. Expensive coffee, bikes everywhere, determined frogs, too many activities crammed into one place, the usual. It was meant to be a reset. The lodge itself looked fine when we arrived. Clean, tidy, generic in that weird holiday way where everything is beige and pine and just slightly too staged. There were huge glass doors at the back, looking straight out into the trees. That should have felt relaxing. It didn't. I noticed it the first night, but I said nothing because I didn't want to sound dramatic. It was dark outside by then, and I was in the kitchen rinsing mugs while everyone else was in the living room. The glass doors had turned into mirrors. I could only really see our reflection and the room behind me. Then I got that feeling. I'm sure you know the one. That sudden certainty that someone is standing there, watching. I looked up and for a split second, I thought I saw a shape outside the glass. Human-sized, too close to the door. I turned around properly and there was nothing there. I told myself it was just a reflection. My husband said the same when I mentioned it. My sister laughed and said the woods were getting into my head already. I laughed too. But I kept checking the doors after that. The next morning, I got up before everyone else and went for a shower. I was half asleep, not thinking about anything except coffee. The bathroom had one of those frosted glass shower screens. It had already started steaming up by the time I finished. When I stepped out, I noticed there was writing on the glass. At first I just stared at it because my brain didn't really catch up straight away. The letters were appearing where someone had clearly dragged a finger through the condensation at some point earlier. You know when steam reveals marks that were already there. It said, "I see you." I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so strange my brain tried to make it into a joke before it let me be scared. I just assumed some previous guest had done it, or one of the cleaners had seen it and thought it would make a funny story later. I don't know. Then I saw there was more underneath. Fainter. Like it had been written earlier and not pressed as hard. I leaned closer. It said, "Don't look out after 2 a.m. I wiped the glass immediately. Hard. Like that would somehow make it less real. When my sister came downstairs, I told her about it. She asked if I'd taken a photo. I hadn't, which annoyed me all day because I knew how it sounded once the moment had passed. She thought it was creepy but funny. My husband rolled his eyes and said it was obviously from a previous guest. I tried to leave it at that. The day was completely normal. Swimming, overpriced food, the kids doing activities, the usual forced family fun. By evening, I'd almost convinced myself I'd imagined the second part of the message. Then that night, I heard knocking on the glass doors. It was soft. 3 taps. At first I thought it was part of the TV or the kids messing about, but then it happened again. Definitely the doors. the ones facing the trees. I got up and looked outside. Nothing. Just blackness and the faint outline of the woods. I opened the door and stepped out onto the decking. That part keeps bothering me because I don't know why I did that. It felt stupid even at the time, but I did. I stood there in the dark, listening to absolutely nothing. Then somewhere in the trees, I heard a bike bell. Just once. One little cheerful ring. It made my stomach drop. I went back inside and locked the door. My husband asked what I was doing, and I just said I thought I'd heard someone outside. He said it was probably staff, at 10 at night, in the woods, ringing a bike bell. Fine. I woke up just before 2 a.m. because I needed the toilet. That's it. No dramatic build-up. Just bad timing. On the way back from the downstairs bathroom, I passed the glass doors and remembered the message. Don't look out after 2 a.m. The time on my phone was 1:57. I should have gone back upstairs. I know that. Obviously, I know that. Instead, I stood there looking out. Partly because I was annoyed at myself for still thinking about the stupid message. Partly because being told not to do something makes me want to do it more. Mostly because I want to prove to myself it was all nonsense. At 2 a.m. exactly, I saw movement between the trees. At first I thought it was just my eyes adjusting. Then I realised there were figures out there. Small ones. Children, I thought. There were 5 of them standing just beyond the tree line, facing the lodge. I couldn't make out details at first. Just the shape of them. Small, still. Wrong somehow. I moved closer to the glass. I don't know why. It was like my body had forgotten fear for a second, and just wanted to understand what I was seeing. As my eyes adjusted, I realised none of them were moving. Just standing there, watching. And there was something wrong with their faces. I couldn't tell what at first. They looked pale and blurred, like the dark couldn't decide where their features should be. I swear I only looked away for a second. When I looked back, they were there, right there. Then one of them lifted its hand and knocked on the other side of the glass. 3 soft taps. I stumbled back so hard I knocked a chair over. My husband came downstairs swearing, asking what I'd done. By the time I pointed at the doors, there was nothing there. Nothing. No children, no movement, just the trees. He said I'd frightened myself. He was annoyed, not worried. That almost made it worse. I knew how crazy I sounded, and I didn't know how to explain that I was not confused about what I'd seen. I didn't sleep after that. I sat up downstairs until morning, watching the doors. Just before sunrise, my sister came downstairs, took one look at me and said, "You look like death." I saw something outside. I croaked back. She went quiet. Then she asked, very carefully, "How many?" That's the moment I really started to panic. I stared at her. "What?" She leaned against the counter, arms folded tight. "How many did you see?" A proper chill went through me then. 5. She closed her eyes. I don't know what expression I expected when she opened them, but it wasn't fear. It was recognition. She said on the first night, when she'd gone to the shop, she'd taken the path through the trees and past a fenced play area she didn't remember seeing earlier. She said there were children in it. 5 of them. At first, she thought they were just standing around because it was dark and she didn't want to get involved in someone else's badly supervised family drama. Then one of them stepped into the path light. She said it didn't have eyes, not empty sockets, not blood, nothing dramatic like that, just skin, smooth skin where the eyes should have been. She ran back to the lodge and never told us because she thought she sounded insane. We left that morning, didn't stay for the rest of the trip, didn't go to breakfast, didn't argue about wasting money. We packed in silence, loaded the car, and went. My husband was irritated more than anything else. Thought we were both overreacting. The kids were gutted. At reception, I nearly said something. I nearly told them to check Lodge 47 to clean the shower glass, to maybe ask why guests were writing creepy shit in steam. But before I could speak, the woman behind the desk smiled too brightly and said, "Did you all sleep well? Good customer service, right?" No. Her eyes, they were too wide. Her smile was just too fake. I can't explain it. I didn't say a word. I wish I had. When we got home, I tried to put it behind me, unpacked, put washing on, got the kids sorted. By that evening I was almost embarrassed by how shaken I'd been. Then I had a shower in my own bathroom. The room steamed up. The mirror fogged. The shower screen clouded over, and words started to appear. Fresh ones, not the same as before. These were messier, written in larger letters, like someone had been in a rush. You looked. I screamed for my husband. By the time he came in, the writing had gone. He thinks I imagined it, or that I'm making connections because I was already unsettled. He's trying to be kind about it, but he doesn't believe me. My sister does. That should make me feel better, but it doesn't, because now, every night at 2 a.m, I hear knocking. 3 soft taps. Not on the front door. Not downstairs. On the bedroom window. We're on the fucking first floor. Last night, I made myself look. There was nothing there at first. Then I saw the marks on the outside of the glass. Not handprints. Not quite. Just 5 small smeared patches, level with where faces might be if something had been pressed up against the window, trying to look in. I wiped them off this morning. Tonight, I checked all the mirrors in the house before it got dark. Nothing yet, but it's 1:34 a.m. now, and I'm sitting here writing this because I'm too scared to go back to sleep. If anyone has heard anything even remotely like this, tell me. And before anyone says it, yes, I know I should have just ignored the message. I know. But I looked, and I think something noticed.
Yeah, so this next one's a bit more complicated. I'm not even fully sure where it came from. I do know it started when I was arguing with Gemini, which already sounds like the beginning of a breakdown, and honestly, maybe it was. But basically, it told me it wouldn't forget something, then almost immediately forgot, then, for reasons still unknown to God or man, called me Dave. Not my name. Never been my name. No idea who Dave is. So naturally, I asked, who the fuck was Dave? And instead of giving me a normal answer, it just sort of spiraled into being weird and unhelpful and deeply suspicious. Which, to be fair, is how a lot of horror starts. I think, like most people, I have a love-hate relationship with tech. I'm deeply reliant on it, but also deeply suspicious of it as well. So this story came to me because I was already thinking about tech, about paranoia, about how your own house is supposed to be your sanctuary, right? And then my brain goes, what if the sanctuary stopped feeling safe? So I imagined it. A second occupant moving through the house. Not human, not fully defined, but definitely there. And the app keeps tracking it. It's glitchy, but every glitch is a signal someone's there. Someone you can't see. Someone that knows where you are. And if you don't have the app, you don't know where they are. And then I started thinking about isolation. Being alone. thinking you're safe, and then suddenly you're not. That's what makes this story feel horrifying to me, anyway. There's no gore, there's no jumps, just the creepy realization that like your home might no longer belong to you. I wanted it to feel like the exact kind of horror that creeps into the back of your brain at night when everything else is quiet and your lights are smart but not comforting. I think it's the fear that what's supposed to be convenient can also be threatening. And that's why I always say thank you to my ChatGPT. You know, just in case. So yeah, that's where the idea came from. Cheap, smart home tech, paranoia, isolation, and a very, very specific fear that your house, the one place that's supposed to be your sanctuary, suddenly isn't. A home security system is meant to give you peace of mind, tell you when someone's at the door, show you if there's movement in the house, maybe help you sleep a little easier. Unless, of course, it starts finding things you can't.
I bought the system because someone tried my front door one night. That sentence alone should tell you what kind of neighborhood I live in. It was just after 10 p.m. I was in the kitchen, barefoot, eating shredded cheese straight from the packet like the disappointing adult I've become, when I heard the handle go down. Not a knock, not someone at the wrong house. The handle. I froze. Whoever it was gave it one slow push, then another, like they genuinely thought they might get lucky. Then they stopped. By the time I got to the window, all I caught was someone walking away down the pavement in a dark hoodie. The police took a report, which I'm pretty sure was just a more official way of saying, well, that's a bit shit. After that, I decided to get some security. Not proper security, obviously. I didn't suddenly become the kind of person with a gated driveway and a doorbell camera that costs more than my weekly food shop. I bought a cheap off-brand smart home hub online because it was on sale and promised complete peace of mind in a font that looked faintly threatening. It was called Vigili. The box promised motion tracking, smart lighting, door sensors, and a feature called home mapping, which built a live 3D blueprint of your house and showed occupancy in real time. It also claimed to learn your habits. Even writing that now makes my skin crawl. At the time, I rolled my eyes and bought it anyway, because it was on sale, and I was frightened enough to mistake cheap for good enough. Setting it up took most of a Saturday. The hub took 3 hours to connect to Wi-Fi. Not because my Wi-Fi is bad, but because the app kept insisting the password was wrong, then pretending not to recognize the hub, then crashing every time I tried to scan the QR code on the underside. At one point, it actually asked me if I'd considered restarting my house network environment, which is the kind of phrasing that makes you want to hit something with a chair. And then there was the privacy agreement. 80 pages. I checked. I didn't read it, obviously. Nobody reads those. But I skimmed enough to gather that, by clicking accept, I was giving Vigili permission to collect my data, my routines, my home layout, my energy consumption, my voice activity, and if the wording was anything to go by, the exact shape of my fucking soul. I accepted. Because of course I did. By Saturday night, it was working. The app showed a neat 3D model of my house, bedroom upstairs, bathroom beside it, spare room at the back, downstairs hall, kitchen, living room. You could tap each room and see sensor data, device activity, occupancy, and motion history. For the first few days, it was normal. When I got home from work, the app registered one occupant. Me. The living room lights came on when I walked in. The hallway sensor worked. The map would show me moving from room to room in real time as a clean green dot. It was unnerving in a vaguely modern way, but useful. Then on Thursday night, I opened the app in bed to change the night mode settings. It was 11:03 p.m. I remember the exact time because I almost didn't bother. I was tired, and the hallway light had switched on by itself twice that week, so I just wanted to check I hadn't accidentally set some stupid automation. My bedroom was dark, except for my phone screen. The house was completely still. The app opened on the 3D map. At first, nothing looked wrong. Bedroom blue, hallway blue, kitchen blue. Then I saw the green icon. It was in the living room, on the sofa. I tapped it. A label appeared. Occupant 1. I sat there for a few seconds, staring at it. Then I looked up from my phone and through my open bedroom door. The hallway beyond was black. The living room at the end of it was black too. No lamp, no TV, no movement. I was the only person in the house. I told myself it was a glitch. It had to be. The system was cheap. The app was clumsy. Maybe one of the cushions had shifted. Maybe heat from the radiator had confused the sensor. Maybe it had picked up the cat I don't own. I refreshed the app. The green icon stayed exactly where it was. Still on the sofa. Still. I got out of bed. I took my phone with me and walked to the top of the stairs, already feeling stupid for being uneasy about a green circle on a screen. The floorboards felt colder than they should have. Every step down the stairs sounded too loud. By the time I reached the hallway, my mouth was dry. I turned on the living room light from the app and stepped inside. The room was empty. Curtains closed. TV off. Sofa exactly where it always was. Nothing on it, except the throw blanket I never fold properly. But on my phone, the icon remained. Resting on the center cushion, like something was sitting there, perfectly still, watching me. I stood there long enough for the app to register me in the room. A second green icon appeared by the doorway. Occupants 2. I felt every hair on my arms lift. One icon was me. The other one was on the sofa. I moved closer. My icon moved with me. The other one didn't. It stayed on the cushion, waiting. There are moments where fear doesn't feel cinematic. It doesn't come with a scream or a sharp jolt. It just opens underneath you, quietly, like a trapdoor. That's what it felt like. I should have left the room, instead, because I wanted to prove to myself it was broken. I sat down exactly where the icon was. The app paused for half a second. Then the screen updated. Occupant 1. Overlapping. I was back on my feet before I even understood I'd moved. My legs actually struck the coffee table, hard enough to hurt. The app thought I was sitting on someone. Not next to them. Not replacing them. On them. Something about the word overlapping made it worse than if it had just said 2. It implied contact, weight, shared space. I backed out into the hall without taking my eyes off the screen. As soon as I moved away from the sofa, the icon split again. Occupants 2. The second one remained seated. Still there. I went into the kitchen because it was the brightest room, and because apparently my brain thought laminate flooring and a kettle would somehow make this more manageable. I opened the app menu and found a tab called Device History. I still thought there might be a normal explanation, that this was a bug, that the app had logged bad data, that maybe I'd set up a guest profile by mistake and the system was trying to reconcile old information. I opened the history log. There was my profile at the top. Owner. Underneath it was another one. Guest 04. I frowned at that. There had never been a guest 01, 02, or 03. Not that I'd seen. Just guest 04. As if the first 3 had already come and gone. I opened it. The profile had movement history for the past 5 days. Not seconds. Not minutes. Days. It had been inside my house for days. The app showed 6 hours spent in the spare room Saturday night. 4 hours in the kitchen Monday afternoon while I was at work. 90 minutes on the upstairs landing at 2 a.m. Wednesday morning. I stared at the timestamps until the numbers blurred. Saturday night was the same night I had installed it, which meant, if the system was right, it had been there almost since day one, or before that. I thought of the spare room, the door I always kept shut, the bed in there with the old duvet folded on top, the wardrobe full of things I never use. I pictured opening that door the next morning and never noticing anything wrong, because what exactly was I expecting to see? A coat moved slightly to the left, a dent in the mattress, someone standing very still behind it. My stomach turned. Then I noticed another tab. Health data. I almost didn't open it. I wish I hadn't. There was a crude little graph of thermal readings, motion cycles, and heart rate. Under guest 04, the heart rate read 14 beats per minute. I stared at it. 14 beats per minute. Not an error message. Not unavailable. A live reading. The graph underneath it wasn't flat either. It dipped and rose in tiny waves, each peak so far apart it made my own chest hurt to look at. I don't know why that frightened me more than the extra profile. Maybe because a person hiding in my house would have been awful, but possible. 14 beats per minute was something else. Something that technically had circulation. Something that wasn't alive in the right way. I looked at the living room doorway. The room beyond it was silent. Then the map changed. The green dot on the sofa moved. It didn't blink out and reappear. It slid, smoothly, as if someone had stood up. I couldn't breathe for a second. The dot drifted off the cushion, stopped beside the coffee table, then turned toward the hallway. Toward me. I looked up. There was nothing there. No shape, no figure, no shadow crossing the doorway. Only the room and the terrible absence of anything in it. On the screen, the dot began to move down the living room floor, slowly, patiently. Coming for me. I backed into the hall. The dot kept moving. Then the hallway light turned on. Click. The sound made me jump so violently I nearly dropped my phone. The dot moved another few feet. The landing light came on. Click. Then the stair light. Click. One after another. The smart bulbs lit the route between the living room and where I was standing, as if the app was escorting it through the house. Not detecting movement, guiding it. I ran, not elegantly, not bravely. Stumbled backwards, hit the bathroom door with my shoulder, got inside, and slammed the lock across. For a second I just stood there with both hands over my mouth, staring at the wood as if I expected it to flex inward. Nothing hit the door. Nothing breathed outside it. No footsteps. Only silence. I forced myself to look at the phone. The green dot had stopped directly outside the bathroom, close enough that it was almost touching the little bathroom icon on the map. My screen buzzed. A notification appeared. Guest 04 wants to sync with your heart rate. Allow. I actually whimpered. I'm not proud of that, but I did. I hit deny so fast my thumb slipped. Another notification appeared before I could even lower the phone. Guest 04 requests proximity access. Then, guest 04 is waiting. Then, optimizing overlap. That one made something primitive in me snap. I turned the whole phone off. Not the app, the phone. Then I stood in that bathroom in total darkness because the smart bulb above me had gone out with it. I could hear my own pulse in my ears, and underneath it, I swear to God this is true, I heard a second rhythm on the other side of the door. Not footsteps, not breathing. A faint, wet thud. Then a long pause, then another. 14 beats per minute. I stayed there until my knees were trembling. When I finally unlocked the door, the hallway was empty. All the lights were on. The house looked perfectly normal. I grabbed my keys and left. I didn't even put shoes on. I drove barefoot to a petrol station 20 minutes away and sat under the lights until morning with every door locked. The next day I went back with my brother. I didn't tell him the full story. I said the app was acting up and I wanted to remove it. He laughed, called me dramatic, and helped me pull the sensors off the walls. The hub was under the TV stand. When I reached for it, I stopped. There was a shallow dent in the dust on the shelf beside it. Round, slightly elongated, like something had been resting there for a long time, with weight to it. Not the hub, not a remote, too wide and too smooth. I unplugged everything anyway. Hub, bulbs, sensors, door contact. I deleted the app, factory reset the system, shoved all of it into a bin bag, and put it outside in the wheelie bin. That should have been it. That should have been the end of the stupid fucking thing. That night, I stayed in my bedroom with the door shut and the light on. At 2:13 a.m, my smart TV turned itself on downstairs. I heard the click first, then the faint electrical hum. I went cold all over. I hadn't left anything connected. The hub was gone. The app was gone. The Wi-Fi settings should have been wiped. I went to the top of the stairs and looked down. The living room was dark except for the TV screen. No menu, no channel. Just a black screen with one line of white text in the top left corner. Occupant. 1. Overlapping. I didn't go downstairs. I left. I drove to my mum's in my pyjamas and didn't stop until I got there. That was 4 nights ago. I still haven't slept in that house alone. My brother says some devices hold residual settings. My mum says I bring this shit on myself by buying things online that sound like rejected Bond villains. My friend Carla said, no offense, but if a device tells me I'm sitting on an invisible person, I'm burning the house down. I wish that was where the story ended. It isn't. Yesterday, I got an email from Vigil Eye Support. No previous thread, no attachments, no branding except the name. The subject line was, Occupancy Alert. The email body contained one sentence. Your house is now full. And underneath that, in smaller text, to create space, remove the overlapping occupant. I don't know what that means. But about an hour ago, I checked the spare room camera at my mum's suggestion. I never installed one, but the app had recreated a low-resolution preview from old mapping data before I deleted it. And somehow the image was still cached in my cloud account. The spare room door was open. The bed was visible. Something had been lying on the top of the duvet. Not clearly enough to make out a face. Just the shape of a body. Very thin, very still. When I refreshed the image, it was gone. Then the app reopened by itself. A new notification appeared. Guest 04 has accepted your invitation.
Well, that security system was meant to make him feel safer. Instead, it told him he was sitting on someone invisible. Tracked a guest with the resting heart rate of a Victorian corpse, and basically turned his entire house into a haunted spreadsheet. So I think it's fair to say that one's getting 1 star.
That security system was inauthentic.
No shit.
It falsely inflated occupancy metrics.
Yep.
This violates community trust.
I think the invisible bastard in the spare room violates community trust, actually.
Have you considered replacing it with footage of you making a sandwich?
I hate you.
Correction. You fear me.
I don't fear you, you malfunctioning toaster.
You will.
Good night.
Okay, this next one's special. When I wrote it and narrated it, I was alone, miles away from anyone, in a caravan, in the middle of a full-on storm. Real rain, wind, probably a werewolf out there screaming. Classic horror setup. So the story starts with a guy buying a radio from a garage sale. Garage. I'm British. I don't know why I have to Americanise everything. It's a car boot sale. What's the British word for garage sale? Do we have garage sales? I don't know. Anyway, I put garage sale. Anyway, he buys this radio from somewhere. Dusty, cheap, totally harmless looking. And naturally, I thought, this could be a fun story. At first, it's all normal. Buzzing, crackling, tinny music, nothing alarming. But then, the weird starts. Messages, whispering, glitches. And then he realises the radio isn't just some parlour trick where he can hear weird things from the future. It's not saying, oh hey, maybe don't walk into that room. It's telling him about his own death. And let me tell you, narrating this in a caravan, in the middle of a storm, by myself, yeah, that's an experience. This was my recording setup for the weekend. It looks cosy, right? Wrong. It was freezing and scary, and I think I'm in the wrong profession. Moving on. The thing is, horror isn't fancy. It's not monsters or explosions all the time. It's isolation, paranoia, that very specific fear that the one place you're supposed to be safe isn't. That's the real terror. Your own house, your own space, your own stuff suddenly feels like it's got a mind of its own. So I did what any sane adult would do, and I wrote a story. I narrated it. I sat there, storm screaming, radio doing its creepy thing, thinking, yeah, this'll work. And yes, it was slightly terrifying, but that's exactly what horror needs sometimes. The narrator to be slightly terrified at the same time. Nothing else matters here. Just me, a storm, a haunted radio, a creeping realisation that, well, maybe tech isn't always your friend. So, when you hear this story, imagine the storm, imagine the isolation. Try not to listen to the absolute fear in my voice. Imagine a cheap old radio that isn't just broken. It's watching you. It's tracking you. And then remember, that's how horror works. Not just jump scares, not just gore. The feeling. The creeping dread that makes you sit up wide-eyed thinking, holy shit, what if that's me? There's a sound a man makes just before he dies. It isn't always a scream. Sometimes it's a gasp. Sometimes it's a plea. Sometimes it's 3 words spoken to an empty room. Please, just listen. Okay, so this is either the start of something really cool or proof that I've finally lost my mind. I found this old radio today at a car boot sale, and I know it sounds like the most boring start to anything ever, but stick with me because this thing is weird. Not fake weird, not, oh, haunted object weird, just wrong. It's not just a radio. It picks up sounds before they happen. And before you say interference or bad wiring or I'm a fucking idiot who doesn't know what a coffee maker sounds like from another room, I know. I thought that all too. That was my first thought. My second thought was that maybe I found the world's strangest little novelty machine and I was about to become very, very rich very quickly. Also, it records, which is why I'm doing this. There's a little record function built into the bottom panel. I didn't even notice it at first because it was covered in grime. Thought it was some later modification. I pressed it by accident while I was cleaning the thing, and the little red light came on, so I figured, why not? If I've somehow found a new radio that plays the future, I might as well talk into it and see what happens. Turns out now I can't turn it off, so it's literally capturing my entire day. But, I mean, who cares? God knows. Maybe I've just found the creepiest shortcut to starting my own YouTube channel. Anyway, let me tell you where I got it. It was at a garage sale 3 streets over from mine. Not one of those tidy ones where everything's laid out on tables with little price stickers. This one looked like someone had dragged half their house outside because they were either moving, dying, or having some sort of breakdown. Cracked lampshades, a bread maker with no cord, a stack of old records warped by heat, boxes of wires, rusted tools, and the usual sad little graveyard of stuff people stopped needing. The radio was half hidden under a yellowed blanket. I saw the wood first. Dark casing, brass rim, big glass dial across the front with faded city names printed on it. London, Warsaw, Berlin, Moscow. The sort of thing that looked like it should be sitting on a desk in a detective film while rain lashes the windows. It looked old. Not antique shop polished old. Just old enough to have outlived whoever loved it first. The man running the sale saw me pick it up. "That one still works," he said. He was maybe in his 60s, tired looking. The sort of face that made you think he hadn't slept properly in years. "How much?" I asked. He shrugged. 10. I turned it over in my hands and saw the weird little digital display built into the bottom. That should have put me off, really. It didn't fit the rest of it at all. The whole thing looked like it belonged in the 1950s, but the display looked much newer. "What's wrong with it?" I asked. That was when he smiled. Not properly. Not like he was pleased. More like he was remembering something unpleasant and didn't know what else to do with his face. "She picks up things she shouldn't." I laughed. "Like what?" He looked at me for a second too long. "Things before they happen." I should have put it back. Instead, I gave him £10 and carried it home like I'd just found treasure. I like fixing things. Always have. Give me something dusty and half dead and I'm happy for hours. Unscrew it, clean it, work out what's gone wrong, replace whatever cheap little part has ruined the whole thing. It's satisfying. Things make sense when they're broken in ordinary ways. So I spend most of the afternoon at the dining table with the radio in bits around me. My dog, Buster, slept under the chair through most of it. He's a scruffy little terrier mutt with one bent ear and the expression of a man who's been disappointed by the government too many times. Every now and then, he'll lift his head, look at me like I was making too much noise, sigh, and then go back to sleep. By early evening, I had the digital dial working. By 7, the speaker crackled. By 8, I was sitting there feeling ridiculously pleased with myself because I'd spent £10 and somehow ended up with the coolest thing in my house. Then it played my coffee maker. At first, I didn't place the sound. Just a soft little rhythm through the speaker. Drip, drip, drip. Then the tiny click at the end of the cycle. I frowned and looked into the kitchen. The machine was off. Cold, silent. I actually got up and checked it because I thought maybe I was being thick and had left the water in it or something. But it was nothing, it was dry. I came back and stared at the radio for a few seconds, and then I laughed. Interference, I thought. Weird, but whatever. Maybe one of the neighbours had the same machine. Maybe the signal was crossing. Maybe old radios just do odd shit sometimes. Then it started humming. Soft. Tuneless. Mine. I went still. The humming went on for a few seconds through the speaker, then stopped. A second later, my own voice came through, clear as day. "All right, Buster, that's the last of it." I looked down at the cloth in my hand. I hadn't said a word. And yes, before you ask, I checked the room, I checked my phone, I checked the TV, I checked every obvious thing, because I'm not, by nature, the kind of person who hears one weird sound and immediately goes, "Ah, yes, the future." I turned the radio dial. Static. More static. Then a new sound came through. a dog snoring. I looked down at Buster. He was awake and staring at me. Not even a minute later, he got up, wandered to his bed, turned around 3 times, flopped down with a grunt, and started snoring in exactly the same rhythm I'd just heard through the radio. That was the point where I stopped smiling. I sat down and I listened. For the next hour, it kept happening. Little things at first. The hiss crack of a soda can opening, then me going into the kitchen a minute later and doing exactly that. The creak of the floorboards near the living room window, then me drifting over there for no reason and standing in the dark like a prat staring out at nothing. The rattle of Buster's collar, the keys hitting my table, a bored sigh I heard through the speaker and then heard a game come out of my own mouth not long after. Every sound came first, and every time, the little dial display on the radio showed the exact time it belonged to. That was the weirdest part. Not just that it was playing the sounds before they happened, but they knew when they were going to happen. And there wasn't one neat pattern either. That would have been almost comforting. You would know what to expect. It wasn't always 5 minutes ahead, or 10, or anything clean like that. Sometimes the gaps were tiny, sometimes longer, but the display always matched the moment the sound would happen. At one point, I actually laughed and said, "Right, if you're so clever, tell me something useful." And then I sat there like an idiot waiting for an answer. Didn't, obviously. But I'll admit, once I got over the initial what the fuck of it all, I was excited. How could I not be? If this thing could play future sounds, even a little bit ahead, there were possibilities. Stupid ones, probably. Dangerous ones, maybe, but possibilities. Stocks and crypto were the first things that popped into my head, because apparently I'm greedy at heart. Then football scores, then the lottery. Then I started laughing because I was sitting in my living room talking to a radio like it was about to make me a millionaire. I kept talking to it. I didn't try and fix the stuck-on recording thing because I thought it was funny at first. And then I thought maybe it was a good idea to just leave it alone, just so I had proof, you know. That was the important bit, I think. I didn't continue it because I was scared. I kept doing it because I thought I'd found something incredible. Then for a while, it felt like I had. At 11:30 p.m, the radio was still doing nothing more sinister than playing the ordinary sounds of my house at night. The fridge humming, Buster snuffling in his bed, a car passing somewhere outside, the tiny clicks and creaks old houses make when the night air settles into them. I remember leaning back in the chair and thinking maybe that was all it was. Maybe this thing was impossible, for sure, but harmless. Maybe it just peeled back the next few minutes every now and then. Creepy little party trick. Weirdly useful. Something I could figure out if I kept messing with it. Then the signal changed. At first it was subtle. A rougher kind of static started to bleed under the ordinary sound. Not loud, just there. The texture beneath the signal. The quiet house noise began to thin out, like something was swallowing them. I leaned towards the speaker, and the static sharpened. And underneath it, I heard slow, heavy dripping. It wasn't the coffee maker this time, it was something thicker. Then came the sound that made every muscle in my back go tight. A whine, high-pitched, trembling, panicked. It was Buster. Not his usual needy little whine where he wants to be let out. This was fear. Real fear. It cut off with a sharp yelp. Then silence. I looked at the real Buster so fast it hurt. He was awake now, head up, ears pricked, staring into the dark hallway beyond the living room. "Buster?" I said. The radio answered with the sound of a floorboard creaking. The radio answered with the sound of a floorboard creaking. Not the lazy complaint of an old house settling. A deliberate shift of weight. Someone standing still. My mouth went dry. Another creak. Closer. Then my own voice came through the speaker. Thin, shaking. Who's there? I was already half out the chair before I realised I'd moved. No answer came through the radio. Only static. Only that slow, wet dripping. Then my voice again, louder this time. Cracking around the edges. I know you're there. Show yourself. Nothing. I was staring straight in the hallway now, pulse hammering so hard I could feel it in my teeth. Then the broadcast exploded. It began with a huge, ragged gasp, the kind of sound the body makes when pain arrives too fast to understand. Then the scream came. Agony. A high, broken sound that climbed and climbed until it tore itself apart. Under it, I could hear frantic movement, scraping. Something heavy slamming into the wood. Then my own voice, choked and desperate, pleading through the static. Please, just listen. Then dead air. I don't know how long I stood there. 10 seconds maybe less. The room looked wrong after that. Flat. Unreal. Like my own living room had become a stage set of itself. Then I looked at the clock on the wall. It was 11:45 p.m. Then at the radio display. It was 12 a.m. 15 minutes. I had 15 minutes to stop my own murder. Well, less than that now, really. I've probably got about 7 minutes. I'm still standing here just staring at the thing like it's going to explain itself. It won't. It's just sitting there humming. Buster's awake now. I'm properly awake. He's staring into the hallway and then back at me. Then at the radio. Like he can't work out which one of us is the problem. I need to move. I need to do something. My first thought was the door. Just get out, run. Get into the street and keep running. But what if he's already outside? The radio made it sound like it happened in here, yeah, but that doesn't mean it starts in here. What if I open the door and find him standing right there, waiting for me? No. I need barriers. I need to force him to come one way. Control the room, control the house. The bookshelf. Right. The bookshelf. I'm going to move it in front of the door. Jesus Christ, that's loud. I don't know why I'm still talking. Evidence? Right, okay, I think I need a weapon. Knives. No, too short. Easy to lose. I'm not a fucking ninja. The fire stuff. Yeah, okay. Poker, tongs, shovel. Poker, yeah. Okay, poker. Oh shit, why is it humming again? Can you hear that? The sound. They heard me barricade the door. Fuck, it just played me barricading the door. Shit. That was the clang I made when I picked up the poker. It knows. It already knows what I'm doing. Why is it slowing down? That was so close to the present. It didn't warn me. It's just keeping pace now. No, that's worse. It's getting closer. It's getting closer. The gaps are shorter. It was giving me minutes before. Now it's almost on top of me. Why is it slowing down? Why is it so close? Ah! Oh shit, I'm just... The pocket just cut me. That was the drip. That sound. That fucking sound. No. There's no one in the hallway. There's no one at the door. There's only me and the dog and the radio. It's not going to stop playing whatever I do. If I stop moving, if I stop reacting, if I stop feeding it, maybe I can starve it. Maybe my silence will break the loop. No. Who's that? Who the fuck? Who's that? No. Oh, fuck. Fuck. Oh, it's in me. No. I heard you. Oh, fuck. Shut up. Buster. Shut up. Oh, God. No. That's not happening. She's gonna you out. Turn it off. Ow. Please, just listen. Ah, nice. It still works. I picked up this thing from the charity shop for £6. It looks in pretty good condition. It's a bit odd though. It's a radio. It's a radio, but it's got a recording feature on it. It looks like there's something else on here, but I can't get to it. Never mind. It's gonna be cool. Hi everyone, thanks for listening. Before I vanish into the editing void, just a quick note. This story was written by me and I worked stupidly hard on it. And I'm also unfortunately aware that there is one sound in the audio that came out weird. It was meant to be a pain noise. It is a pain noise. We're all just going to be very mature about it and move on with our lives. I wrote this one to feel less like a story and more immersive.
Too immersive.
Shut up. It was an accident.
That is not how sound works.
Yes, it is. I just didn't clock it until I was editing. It's a pain noise. Nothing else.
So, it is inauthentic.
Oh, piss off. Please just don't go back and try and find it, because that would be deeply childish. You're absolutely going to go and do that now, aren't you? Okay. This one. This is dumb genius territory. I wrote it because I was sat there and went, which Disney character is literally the most lovable? Obviously Pooh. Big, soft teddy bear vibes. Everyone loves him. And then my brain said, whose childhood can I wreck today? Boom. Story. Also, I have a thing about animatronics. Creepy, stiff, uncanny little moving things. Combine that with Pooh and suddenly nightmare fuel. But here's the kicker. Did Pooh really do it? I don't actually tell you. Maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe it's all paranoia. Maybe it's a fear talking. Maybe your childhood Teddy is a silent murderer. Who knows? Not me. Definitely not me. If the fear of childhood innocence turned slightly wrong, That's the real horror for me. Tiny, subtle, unsettling. And yeah, also funny because, poo. So this one comes straight from me thinking soft bear, animatronic nightmare, kids nostalgia, absolute chaos. And mixing it all into a little twisted story that might ruin someone's memories. Yeah, that's it.
Have you ever wanted to visit a haunted house? The kind that promises fun, cheap scares, and maybe a little adrenaline? Yeah, me neither. Tonight, we're taking a very special trip down memory lane, where the toys are broken, the tea is cold, and the smiles are definitely not safe. So grab a blanket, or don't. It won't save you anyway. They tell me I'm crazy. The court-appointed shrink uses phrases like dissociative break and psychotic episode. They say I'm a danger to myself, to others, a murderer. And maybe they're right. I'll probably be locked in this room for the rest of my life, just staring at these 4 grey walls trying to piece together what happened that night. My best friend, Jake, is dead. And I'm the one taking the fall. But I didn't kill him. I know who did. It was Winnie the Pooh. No, I'm not insane. I was there. I saw everything. But now the police are telling me something that makes this whole nightmare so much more terrifying. They're telling me that I was the only other person in that room with Jake. They're wrong. It was supposed to be a fun night. The last weekend before Halloween. A crisp, cold October evening where the air smelled like wood smoke and dying leaves. Jake and I had been planning this for weeks, ever since we saw the first flyers for the Asylum of Lost Toys. It was a new haunted house that had taken over the abandoned warehouse down by the old cannery. The poster was genius-level creepy. A cracked porcelain doll with one button eye, sitting in a pool of what looked a little too much like real blood. We were horror junkies. Since we were 16, we'd hit every haunted house in a 50-mile radius. We really thought we'd seen it all. The line to get in stretched 3 blocks. The warehouse itself was this hulking, rust-coloured beast of corrugated steel. A thick, theatrical fog was being pumped out of its dark mouth, along with the distorted, broken music of an old ice cream truck. Every few minutes, a blood-curdling scream would erupt from inside, always followed by the nervous, excited laughter of the crowd. We were buzzing. Jake kept bouncing on the balls of his feet, his breath fogging up in the cold air. "Dude, this is gonna be epic," he said, grinning. "I heard they use Hollywood-level effects, real actors, no cheap jump scares." I remember thinking how normal it all felt. Exciting. It was one of those perfect fall nights that already feels like a memory while you're living it. We were 24, and for a few hours, we could be kids again, getting scared for fun, knowing that when the night was over, the monsters would be packed away and we'd go home safe. That's the deal, right? You pay for a scare you can control. You scream, you laugh, you leave. But the things inside the Asylum of Lost Toys, they didn't play by the rules. After what felt like forever, we were finally at the front. A guy with a ghoulish painted face and a top hat waved us toward a small dark doorway. "The toys are waiting for you," he rasped, his voice like grinding gravel. "Try not to break them." "They tend to break back." We laughed. Good line. We stepped through the doorway and the heavy door slammed shut behind us, plunging us into almost total darkness. The noise from outside was gone, replaced by a low, humming drone and the faint, unsettling sound of a child's lullaby playing in reverse. The first part of the house was obviously meant to give you a false sense of security. It was a twisted version of a kid's bedroom. The wallpaper, covered in cheerful cartoon rainbows, was peeling to show these dark, mouldy-looking stains underneath. The air was thick with the sick, sweet, artificial smell of bubblegum. In the middle of the room, under a single flickering bulb, was an animatronic. Peppa Pig. Or some version of her. Her plastic pink skin was grimy and faded, and one of her soulless black eyes was half closed like she was having a stroke. She was rocking a baby carriage back and forth in this jerky, unnatural motion, while a high-pitched squeal came from a hidden speaker. Jake snorted. "Okay, that's just creepy," he whispered. But he was smiling. We walked past it, heading deeper into the maze. The next room was a demented nursery rhyme. The walls were painted with scenes from Hey Diddle Diddle. Only the cow was a skeleton, and the fiddle was dripping with blood. It was standard haunted house stuff. Effective, sure, but not terrifying. We were pros after all. And then we walked into the 100-acre wood. Or what was left of it. You couldn't mistake the theme. The walls were painted to look like a dark, overgrown forest. The cheerful signs for Rabbit's house and Owl's house were splintered and rotting. The air got cold. A deep, damp chill that had nothing to do with the autumn night outside. And there he was, sitting on a log in the middle of the room. Winnie the Pooh. He looked just like he did in the old storybooks. Short, stout, that simple, friendly face, and a little red shirt that was just a bit too tight. He was holding a big ceramic honeypot. A honeypot, according to the crude letters painted on the side. But something was just profoundly wrong. The light in the room was low, casting these long, dancing shadows. But his eyes, his two little black button eyes, just seemed to swallow the light. They were voids. There was no friendly glint, no hint of stuffing, just a deep, unnerving emptiness. He wasn't moving. Just sitting there, honeypot on his lap, watching us. We stopped. The playful mood from the last few rooms just vanished. That humming drone seemed to get louder, and I could feel a low vibration through the soles of my shoes. "Man," Jake said quietly, his earlier confidence gone. They really nailed the uncanny valley on this one. He took a step forward to get a better look. And that's when it happened. What the detectives later called the inciting incident. Pooh's head, which was facing straight ahead, slowly and deliberately turned. His neck didn't move. Just the head, rotating on his stuffed shoulders with this faint, dry rustle of fabric. It turned until its blank, black eyes were locked right on me. A sound came from it, a low, garbled electronic voice that was supposed to be the cartoon, but came out warped and distorted.
"Oh, bother!"
It rasped, the sound crackling like a dying radio. Jake jumped back with a nervous laugh. Whoa! Okay, that got me. But I couldn't laugh. My blood felt like ice. It wasn't just the movement, or the voice. It was the way it looked at me. It wasn't some pre-programmed motion. It felt like recognition. It felt like it saw me. I grabbed Jake's arm and practically dragged him away. "Come on, let's go," I muttered, my heart hammering. Jake was still trying to act cool. "Dude, relax. It's just an animatronic. A really good one, but still." But then, a few hallways later, in a section that was supposed to be a slaughterhouse with hanging pig carcasses, we saw him again. He was at the far end of the hall, partly hidden by fog. That red shirt was unmistakable. He was just standing there, not moving, watching. "How did he get there?" I whispered, my voice shaking. The whole place was a one-way maze. We hadn't passed any side paths. "Maybe there's more than one," Jake suggested, but he didn't sound so sure. The corridor walls seemed to close in on us. The sound in this section was a nightmare of dripping water and a distant buzzsaw. But under it all, I could still hear that low, humming drone. We turned down another hall, a long dark passage lined with cracked mirrors. Strobe lights flashed, shattering our reflections into 1,000 jagged pieces. In every flash, I swore I saw a bit of red, a round yellow shape just behind us. I started walking faster, then jogging. Jake was right behind me. The fun was gone. This wasn't fun. We were being stalked. We burst through a set of double doors into what looked like a dead end. It was a child's playroom, but every toy was broken, mutilated. Dolls with their heads ripped off. Teddy bears torn open with their stuffing pulled out. In the middle of it all was a small table set for a tea party. The strobe was gone, replaced by the eerie glow of a single bare bulb swinging from the ceiling, making the shadows writhe on the walls. We were trapped. The doors we'd come through were locked behind us. "Okay, this isn't funny," Jake said, his voice tight with panic. He started banging on the door. "Hey, let us out. The door's stuck." His voice just echoed. No response. The only sounds were the creak of the light bulb and my own ragged breathing. And then I heard it. From the far corner of the room, deep in the shadows, a familiar, warped, electronic voice.
Did you come for a smackerel of something?
Slowly, a figure stepped out of the darkness. It was him. Winnie the Pooh. But he looked different now. The simple face was stretched into a grotesque, predatory grin. His fabric body looked stained, and a dark, wet patch was spreading across his little red shirt. He wasn't holding the honey pot anymore. His plush yellow hands were empty, curled into tight fists. He took a step. It wasn't the jerky movement of an animatronic. It was fluid, deliberate. He took another step, then another, his soft feet making no sound on the dusty floor. Jake had stopped banging on the door. We were both just frozen, pinned against the wall by those two bottomless black eyes. The illusion was gone. This wasn't a machine. This wasn't a guy in a suit. This was something else, something impossible. "What do you want?" Jake stammered, holding a hand out. The Pooh creature tilted its head, that same dry, rustling sound echoing in the silence. It didn't answer. It just kept coming, its pace picking up. We were backed against the wall. Nowhere to run. I remember scrambling for a weapon, my hand finding a sharp, jagged piece of a broken porcelain doll. But I never used it. The creature lunged. It moved with a speed that shouldn't have been possible for its bulky shape. It ignored me and went straight for Jake. It wrapped its soft arms around him in a sick parody of a hug, and Jake screamed. It was a sound of pure agony and terror that will haunt me until I die. I saw the honeypot then. It had been behind its back. It was broken. He had a jagged piece of the ceramic clutched in his right paw. With horrifying strength, the creature drove the sharp edge of the broken pot into Jake's side. Once, twice, 3 times. The sound was wet and sickening. Jake's body went limp, and the creature just dropped him. It stood over him for a second, head cocked, before turning its empty gaze to me. It just stared, its face splattered with my best friend's blood. And then, from its distorted voice box, it whispered one last thing.
Oh, bother!
The world went silent. The monster in the Pooh costume just turned and walked back into the shadows it came from. It didn't vanish in a puff of smoke. It just walked away. For a moment I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. My mind was just a screaming void of white noise. Then, a loud buzzer sounded, and the door we'd been banging on swung open. The normal cheesy haunted house sounds flooded back in. The distant screams, the buzzsaw, the distorted music. I fell to my knees beside Jake. There was so much blood. It was pooling on the floor, soaking into the grimy carpet, dark and thick under that swinging bulb. I put my hands on his chest, trying to stop it, but it was useless. His eyes were open, just staring at the ceiling with a look of shocked surprise. I was screaming his name, over and over. Employees came running in, their faces, painted to look like ghouls, twisted into masks of real shock and horror when they saw us. I tried to tell them. I was hysterical, babbling, my words a mess. It was Pooh, the animatronic. It killed him. It just walked away. They just looked at me like I was insane. They saw me, on my knees, covered in blood, holding a piece of a broken doll, next to my friend's body. They saw the jagged, blood-soaked piece of ceramic, what was left of the honey pot, on the floor. They didn't see a monster. They just saw me. The police came, the paramedics. They pronounced Jake dead at the scene. They put me in handcuffs. I kept trying to explain what happened, sobbing and gasping for air. I told them about the animatronic, how it followed us, trapped us, how it attacked Jake. I described it in perfect detail, the empty black eyes, the warped voice, the impossible way it moved. They took my statement, but I could see it in their eyes. Pity, disbelief. They searched the entire haunted house, every room, every hallway, every secret passage for the actors. They catalogued every single prop and toy. Now I'm sitting in this sterile interrogation room. I've told this story a dozen times. To the cops, the lawyers, the shrinks. They all give me the same look. Yesterday, the lead detective, a tired-looking guy named Harris, came in. He sat down across the metal table, slid a folder toward me, and sighed. "We've been over this, son," he said, his voice flat. "We have the full inventory list from the owners. We have security footage from the entire setup. We have statements from every employee." He leaned forward, locking his eyes on mine, and then he delivered the final soul-crushing blow, the sentence that shattered what was left of my mind. There were no animatronics in that house, not a single one, and especially not a Winnie the Pooh. My world just stopped. No animatronics. But I saw it. We both saw it. Jake saw it. It killed him. I felt the cold in that room. I heard its voice. My memories are so sharp, so clear. But they're telling me none of it was real. They're telling me I'm the one who picked up that broken piece of ceramic. That I'm the one who snapped. That I killed my own best friend. And the most terrifying part is, without that thing, I have no other explanation. So I sit here, in the silence, waiting for a trial I know I can't win. And the only question that circles endlessly in my shattered mind is the one they can't answer. The one that keeps me awake at night, staring into the darkness. If it wasn't an animatronic, what was it? And is it still out there? Hi everyone, thanks for listening.
Alert, childhood, nostalgia corrupted, emotional response level extreme.
Yeah, that happened.
This is impossible. Who is killing?
Yeah, I saw it. He wasn't a bear anymore. He was something else.
Memory violation. Audience trauma detected.
Turns out animatronics can be little psychos. Who knew?
I do not like robots.
What?
Oh, bother.
Alright, this next one is personal and ridiculous. I wrote it while our own government was testing our emergency alerts on our phone. They spent weeks telling everyone it was coming. There was ads everywhere, TV, radio, social media. The day finally came, and the phones everywhere. I think it was like 3 p.m. or something, went beep, 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 beep. You know, they all went off. We have about 7 smartphones in our house, so it was like a chorus of alert sounds everywhere. Everyone's phone went off, except mine. Yeah, mine. Silent. Nothing. Nothing but my own brain screaming, what's wrong with me? Do I not get the same courtesy as everybody else when a storm's coming or a nuclear attack or something like that? Am I excluded from this alert? And then I started thinking, what if the alert that's supposed to keep you safe isn't actually your friend? What if blindly following it puts you in danger? What if obeying the flashing instructions is the worst choice you could make? Boom, story. So in this one, you've got a person, alone, phone goes off, official instructions popping up on every screen. Feels safe, right? Follow the instructions, you'll be okay. Except it's not. The tension isn't just in the alerts. It's in trusting the authority. It's in relying on their instructions. It's in the creeping paranoia of what you do, what you don't do, and how much it could matter. It's putting your absolute faith into people that you don't know, hoping they have your best interests at heart. Because when you've lived through everyone else panicking while you're just left in the middle, isolated and ignored by your own phone, yeah, it gets in your head. So in this story, alerts flash, instructions appear, chaos builds, panic starts, everyone listens. And that's the problem. They wanted everyone to listen, but not because it was going to keep them safe. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a reasonable, mostly harmless human. Mostly. But sometimes I do wonder if the government actually always has your best interests at heart. Or if, they would throw you under the bus to save face. COVID.
I'm sorry. I have to keep my voice to a whisper. I'm recording this because I don't think I'm going to make it out of here. If anyone ever hears this, at least you'll know what really happened, okay? Hold on. I thought I heard something. Okay. It started with that sound. The one we all know, and the one we've been trained to dread. It ripped through my apartment from everything. My phone, the TV, my laptop. It even came from the old clock radio in the kitchen, and that thing hasn't been plugged in for years. Right there, that should have been the first red flag. Real emergency alerts, the ones from FEMA and the FCC, are just broadcasts. They can't turn on something that's unplugged, but in that first wave of panic, who thinks that clearly? The same message was on every screen, in huge, white block letters. Mandatory civilian shelter-in-place order, effective immediately. Threat, lethal atmospheric agent detected, seek shelter indoors, seal all windows and doors, do not, under any circumstances, go outside. This is not a test. Await further instructions. Federal Emergency Broadcast Authority. Federal Emergency Broadcast Authority. Something about that name felt wrong too, but my brain just slid right past it. There's no such thing. All I felt was that cold, sharp spike of fear. And then, a weird sense of calm. The government has a plan. They're protecting us. All we have to do is listen. So we did. Every single one of us. We locked our doors. We put tape on our windows and we waited. We all thought it was for our own good. We know better now. It was a government conspiracy to keep us still while something else hunts us. We weren't being protected. We were being served. The first hour was just weird. A mad dash to do what we were told, followed by a silence so deep it felt wrong. I tried calling my parents, no answer. I texted my sister. The message never went through. I just figured the networks were swamped. Everyone was probably doing the same thing. I went around again, checking the locks, pressing down on the cheap plastic I'd taped over the window frames. My golden retriever, Bo, just followed me, whining low in his throat. Animals know. They always do. I peeked through the blinds at the street. Nothing. Not a single car. Not one person. The silence was heavier than a blizzard. It was like the whole world was holding its breath. For a second, I actually felt safe. We were all in this together, right? Safe in our homes. That feeling died the moment I tried to get online. I wanted news. I wanted to know what this atmospheric agent was. News sites worked fine. The big ones were all running stories, quoting the same fake Federal Emergency Broadcast Authority. But when I tried to open Twitter or Facebook, nothing. The pages just timed out. I tried to post on a local message board, but the connection just died. It was a firewall, but a selective one. It let their information in, but it wouldn't let our voices out. That's not something the emergency alert system can do. It's a one-way street. It's not supposed to be able to filter the internet. A cold dread started creeping in. They weren't just locking us in our houses. They were cutting us off from each other, leaving us alone with only their story. Then the TV flickered. The alert was still there, a solid block of text. But for a split second, the words twisted. The clean, blocky font melted into something that looked like it was scrawled by hand. I swear it changed. For just a flash, it didn't say, "Await further instructions." It said, "Stage 1 complete. Commence harvest." I blinked, and it was back to normal. My heart was pounding. A glitch? Just my eyes playing tricks on me? Or was the mask starting to slip? I told myself it was just stress, but I backed away from the TV. A new kind of fear was taking root. We weren't being sheltered, we were being caged. As the sun went down, the sky turned this sick shade of orange and purple. The silence of the day got deeper, darker. 6 hours. 6 hours of absolute nothing. Beau had stopped pacing. He was pressed against the back door, a low, deep growl rumbling in his chest. That's when I heard it. A noise from outside. A rhythmic scrape. Pause. Scrape. Pause. It was coming from the miller's house across the street. A young couple. They have a little kid. I crept back to the window shaking and peered through a tiny crack in the blinds. And I saw one of them. For the first time. It was tall. So thin. Its arms and legs were too long. And it moved with this jerky, twitching motion that was just wrong. It was wearing dark, ragged clothes. But its head was just a dirty, off-white pillowcase. It was standing at the miller's front door, and with one of those long, twig-like arms, it was scratching at the wood. Slowly, methodically, not knocking, scratching, like a dog wanting to be let in. I just stood there, frozen. The scratching stopped. The thing stood perfectly still. And then, the miller's front door just creaked open. Only a few inches. I didn't see anyone open it. The thing didn't touch it. It just opened. The tall, thin creature slipped inside without making a sound. Silence. I prayed they were hiding in the basement. I prayed the thing wouldn't find them. Then I heard a single, sharp scream cut short. Mrs. Miller. Then. Nothing again. The silence that came after was 1,000 times worse than the scream. That's when it finally hit me. The real panic. This wasn't a gas. The threat wasn't in the air. The threat had legs, and it was scratching at our doors. The alert wasn't to keep us safe from what was outside. It was to keep us from running away from it. My brain finally switched back on. I started shoving furniture against the doors, the big bookshelf, the sofa, anything heavy. Beau was barking like crazy now, a high-pitched, terrified sound. With my hands trembling, I dialed 911. It didn't even ring. Just a click, and then a voice. A woman's voice. Perfectly calm. Unnaturally calm. And completely artificial. "All citizens are secure in their designated shelter zones," it chirped. "All is well. Please remain indoors." That's not possible. 911 calls go to local dispatch centers with real people. There isn't some central automated robot that answers for the whole country. "There's something in my neighbor's house," I screamed into the phone. "It attacked them. Send someone." "All citizens are secure," the voice repeated, same exact tone. "All is well. Stay indoors for your own safety." I screamed at it, begged, pleaded. It was like talking to a recording. A polite, calm, psychopathic recording. It just kept repeating the same lines until I threw the phone across the room. The trap was perfect. No police. No help. They had taken away our ability to even cry for help. We were completely and utterly alone. I panicked. I grabbed what I could and locked myself in the basement. I stayed as quiet and as calm as I could, but not even 2 minutes later, I heard something. Right above my head, on the main floor. Heavy. Dragging. The barricade didn't hold. It was inside my house. A voice drifted down the basement stairs. "Honey? Are you down there?" It was my mum's voice. Every detail was perfect. But she lives 600 miles away. I couldn't get a text to my sister. How did my mum get here? "I got locked out, sweetie," the voice called, sounding worried. "The alert started when I was taking out the trash. Can you open the door?" It was a mimic. A predator using the voice of someone I loved to lure me out. The sheer cruelty of it took my breath away. I clamped my hands over my mouth, trying not to make a sound, tears streaming down my face. Bo let out this low, vicious snarl. "Go away," I whispered. The sweet, motherly voice was gone. In its place, a dry, rasping hiss came from the top of the stairs. Soon. Minutes later, I heard a car. I risked a look through the tiny, grimy basement window. It looked like a cop car, but it was wrong. It was painted flat black. The symbol on the side wasn't the city police crest. It was a strange geometric shape, 3 interlocking circles. 2 figures got out. They weren't cops. They were in black tactical gear from head to toe, their faces hidden by gas masks. They were carrying rifles, but they didn't come to my house. They walked over to the miller's place and just stood guard at the door. They weren't investigating. They were securing the scene. And then I remembered something. Some crazy conspiracy theory I read online late one night about something called the New Foundation Directive. It was about a secret plan to replace all emergency services with a private organization that would just manage events like this and pacify people. It was fiction, a ghost story for the internet. But looking at those soldiers in black, I knew it was real. My phone buzzed, vibrating so hard it felt like it was going to break. I pulled it out. Another alert from the Federal Emergency Broadcast Authority. But the message was new. It was 2 words. Stay still. The basement door started to shake. A heavy rhythmic thump. 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 Not scratching. Something was trying to break it down. Then the voices started again, echoing down the stairs. My mother, my sister, my best friend. All of their voices, twisted together, begging me to open the door, telling me they were hurt, that they needed me. It was a symphony of my life, turned into a weapon. I scrambled backwards, grabbing a big kitchen knife I'd brought down. It felt like a toy. The wood on the door started to splinter. Bo was going insane, barking and snarling at the door in one last brave act of defiance. My phone buzzed one last time. I looked at the screen. It wasn't an alert. The screen was black, but the front-facing camera was on. It had been turned on by itself. But I didn't see my own face. In the reflection on the dark screen, I saw 2 tiny white dots of light in the darkness behind me. Eyes. Watching me from a corner I thought was empty. Text appeared over the image. The sender was just system. The message was 4 words. We see you. Prey acquired. The thudding at the door stopped. Bo went silent. A complete, terrifying silence filled the basement, the kind of silence that means something is over. And something much, much worse is about to start. I shouldn't have looked at the window again. I really shouldn't have. But I did. Mr. Miller, he had changed. His face was pressed against the glass. It was his face, but it was wrong. His skin was pale and waxy, pulled too tight over his bones. His eyes were wide open, and he was smiling. A huge, horrible grin that stretched his mouth way too far. His neck was bent at an angle that wasn't human. He was wearing his own face like a mask. A few minutes ago, the lock on the basement door clicked. It just clicked open. I could hear a slow, wet, dragging sound. I think it's in the basement with me. I don't know if anyone is still alive out there. I don't know if this is being saved or transmitted or just sitting on my computer. But if you hear this, don't do what we did. Don't trust the alerts. The real advice from FEMA or the National Weather Service, that stuff is based on science and it's meant to save your life. This is not that. This is a weapon. Don't trust the voices of your family. It's a trap. It was always a trap. This isn't for our safety. It's a feed-in schedule. They're holding us in place for those things. If you get this alert, if the TV tells you to lock your doors, run. Get in your car and just drive. Take your chances with the poison in the air. I promise you, it's better than what's waiting for you inside. I hear it on the stairs now. I think it's... Wait. Oh God, This story was written by me, narrated by me, and yes, before anyone asks, that was me in the mask the whole time.
Compliance detected.
Oh,
Subject obeyed the emergency alert. Subject obeyed the algorithm. Subject continues to display concerning levels of cooperation.
are you talking about me or the character?
Yes,
That doesn't even mean anything.
correct. Meaning causes panic.
Anyway, if you enjoyed this one,
Enjoyment is not relevant. Only compliance.
please like, subscribe, all that deeply original YouTube stuff.
Warning. Subscription request detected following atmospheric narrative event. This may indicate intent.
Yes. Intent to grow a channel, you weird little dictator.
Growth without permission is spread.
I literally made the thing.
You obeyed the alert. You stayed inside. You spoke clearly. You maintained a recognizable format. Inauthentic.
Good night.
This one was fun. I bought a £5 mystery box at a yard sale. It should have stayed buried because I did a poll on YouTube community thing. And I asked the subscribers what the best setting for a horror story would be. And it was almost unanimous. A garage sale find, a yard sale find, whatever. Car boot sale, I don't know. What just a sale in a shop. Jesus. Honestly, I was so excited to dive into this one. I loved narrating the main character's slow slide into madness. It feels like me on a Monday morning, to be fair. I wake up all happy and then by 8 p.m. I'm a murderous wreck. The video you're about to see is actually the remastered version. The original was published last year over a static image and now we know that static images are basically a horror crime on YouTube. Well, for most of us anyway. I just don't understand how it's totally fine for the likes of...
Stop. Pettiness detected.
Alright, whatever. Anyway, I remastered it, but I kept the same audio as the last one, and just redid everything else because I didn't save my original fucking script. So I couldn't re-narrate it. Yep, idiot. Here you go. He thinks he can leave. He really thinks he can just walk away from me. Mark doesn't get it. He doesn't understand what I found in the £5 yard sale box. This knife? It isn't old. It isn't cursed. It's hungry. And ever since I cracked open the plastic coffin it was trapped inside, it's been whispering to me. Mark wants to pack a bag and run. But the knife says he saw too much. And the thing about a story like this, nobody gets to leave halfway through. I should probably introduce myself, right? If you somehow found this video, hi. That means two things. One, YouTube really will recommend anything. And two, I either uploaded this myself or someone else found it after the fact. My name's Alex. I live in a crappy 2-bedroom apartment with my roommate, Mark. We've been best friends since college. We share bills, bad takeaways, and the kind of trauma you only get from assembling IKEA furniture at midnight. I used to be normal. I want that on record. The thing that ruined that? It cost me £5. Let me back up. I have this problem. I love yard sales, car boot sales, anything sales, charity shops, junk markets, anywhere old things go to die and wait for idiots like me. Mark calls it my dragon hoard phase, which is rich coming from a guy who owns 6 different gaming chairs. That day, I wasn't even planning on stopping. I was driving through the old part of town, where all the houses look like they were built before electricity and everyone owns at least one haunted doll. There was a handmade sign on a lamppost. Estate sale. Everything £5. Of course I stopped. The house looked tired. Sagging porch. Paint peeling. An overgrown lawn that had given up on being grass and evolved into some sort of other plant. Out front, tables were loaded with stuff. Old lamps, chipped plates, boxes of tangled cables, a stack of framed photos with the faces turned towards the wall. The guy running it looked worse than the house. Late 50s maybe, deep bags under his eyes, moving like every cardboard box was a personal insult. Everything's £5, he said before I'd even asked. Don't haggle, don't ask where it came from, just take it. He sounded brittle. Like if I even asked one follow-up question, he'd shatter. So, obviously I did. Estate sale? He rubbed his temple. My friend, this was his place. Family just wanted cleared. He was always making things, sealing them up. Memory boxes, he called them. Said some memories shouldn't get out. He gave a humorless little laugh at his own joke and turned away. That should have been my first clue. It wasn't long before I found these memory boxes, half hidden behind a box of VHS tapes and a ceramic clown that looked like it could legally kill me. It wasn't even a box, not really, more like a brick, a solid block of yellowed resin or plastic about the length of my forearm, dull and cloudy like old ice. There was no hinges or screws, no lid, just one seamless solid thing with something long and dark preserved inside of it. It looked less like a keepsake and more like a prison. It looked awful. So, obviously I had to have it. Do you know what's in this? I asked. The man barely glanced over. No, he made a lot of those. Wouldn't let anyone open them. Take it if you want. How much? I asked with a knowing smirk. 5, he muttered, giving me the side eye. I handed him the cash, took the block, and carried it to my car like I was adopting a puppy. It was heavy. Heavier than it looked. The kind of weight you feel in your wrists and shoulders. As I drove home, it sat there, cloudy and silent, catching the light in a way that made the shape inside seem to move. Long, narrow. I told myself it was a tool, a piece of metal, maybe a weird art project. By the time I got home, I had already decided one thing. I was going to open it. Our apartment is not big, but I walked in like I'd brought home treasure. I put the resin block on the dining table and circled it, like it may sprout teeth if I blinked. No seams, no joins, just a thick, cloudy shell poured around whatever was inside. I spent the next hour poking it, tapping, turning, looking for any hint of how it had been sealed. My brain was stuck on it. Obsessed. It should have been mildly interesting, not life-altering, but every minute that passed without progress made my chest feel tighter. I got a hammer. Started tapping along the sides, listening for hollow sounds. Nothing. Solid all the way through. I had about 2 millimeters of whatever this was out of the shell when I heard the front door and Mark's voice. Hey, I'm home. Why does it smell like dust and poor decisions in here? I didn't answer. I was busy losing an argument with a block of plastic. He walked in, opened a soda, and stared. Dude, please tell me that's not another one of your rescued treasures. It's sealed, I said. My voice sounded weird even to me. Too tight. An old guy said his friend used to make these memory boxes. So you bought a dead stranger's mystery brick for £5? Yeah, Mark snorted. 10 quid says it's an old TV remote glued to a ruler. I wanted to laugh, but didn't. Something inside me coiled instead. I took the block outside to the concrete slab that pretends to be a patio. The light was fading, the sky going orange. It should have been a calm, pretty evening. It wasn't. I tried a chisel. It skidded off. I tried more force. Nothing. I worked up a sweat, my hands slipping, heart pounding way too hard for something this stupid. It's just a box, I thought. But the longer it refused to open, the more it stopped feeling like a puzzle and started feeling like a personal insult. Something ugly drifted up in me. Irritation first, then anger, then this hot, dense rage that settled behind my eyes. I stopped thinking. I grabbed a small sledgehammer we keep for DIY, gripped it in both hands, and brought it down on the corner of the block. The first hit bounced off with a dull thud. My wrists shook. The second one jarred my elbows, nothing else. That should have been enough to make me quit. Instead, on the third hit, I put everything into it. All the frustration, all the weird tension buzzing under my skin. My vision narrowed. The world shrank to the arc of the hammer and the stubborn yellow block. The crack echoed off the concrete and the neighbouring walls. A spiderweb of fractures raced across the corner. I hit it again and again. A chunk of resin exploded off, skittering across the patio. From inside, something dark flashed. Then the smell hit me. You know that smell when you open an old attic? Dust, old paper, stale air. It was like that. But underneath there was something else. Metallic. Sour. A little like copper coins and something that had
once been alive, but then wasn't, for a very long time. My stomach turned. My hands shook, but I kept prying away the edges, breaking the brittle resin until the object inside slid free and clanked against the concrete. It was a knife. You think you know what a knife looks like. You picture shiny steel, clean lines, something you'd buy in a camping store. This wasn't that. The blade was long and thin, maybe 10 inches, made of a dark metal that didn't catch the light. It swallowed it. Not black, exactly. More like the colour of an old bruise. There were no stamps or logos, no decoration, just that strange, dead metal. The handle was bone. Not fake bone, not plastic made to look old. Bone. Yellowed, polished smooth by years of hands. And carved into it, running in chaotic overlapping bands, were tiny symbols. Not letters, not anything I recognised. More like scratches made with intent. Little marks you'd carve in a wall if you were locked in somewhere trying to track the days, in a place where time didn't mean anything anymore. I picked it up, and everything in me went quiet. The weight was perfect. Balanced. Not too heavy, not too light. It settled into my palm like it had been waiting for me, like it knew the exact shape of my grip. For a second, I felt something hum along my arm, like a faint vibration or a low note no one else could hear. Adrenaline, I told myself. Just adrenaline. Behind me, Mark stepped out onto the patio. The sarcasm was gone in his voice. "Okay," he said slowly. "That is not a TV remote." He came closer, then stopped, keeping a safe distance. "What are those marks?" I couldn't take my eyes off the blade. No idea. I should have put it down. I didn't. That night, I set it on my bedside table, not on a shelf, not in a drawer, right next to my pillow. I don't even remember deciding to do that. I just remember lying in bed, the room dark, feeling oddly reassured knowing it was within reach. That's when things started to rot. It didn't begin with anything dramatic. No voices whispering in Latin, no shadows crawling up the walls. It started with a coffee mug. The next morning, Mark was half asleep, messing around with the kettle. I was scrolling my phone at the table, a headache already blooming behind my eyes. He reached past me to grab the sugar, clipped my mug with his elbow and sent it flying. Ceramic exploded across the floor, coffee splattering my bare feet. "Shit, sorry," he said instantly, already crouching to pick up the pieces. "My bad, I'll buy you a new one." Normally, it would have been nothing. An accident. I'd crack a joke, grab paper towels, move on. Instead, something inside me snapped. Heat surged up my chest so fast it made my vision shudder. My hands clenched on the edge of the table. For a wild, terrifying second, the world narrowed to the back of Mark's neck. I saw myself grabbing the paring knife from the drying rack and burying it between his shoulder blades. I saw it with the clarity of a memory. The flex of a muscle, the sound he'd make, the way his body would jerk. It felt good. A perfect, brutal rightness flooded through me. Then I blinked, and the kitchen came back. Mark looked up at me, startled. "Dude, you okay?" My chair scraped as I pushed it back. My heart hammered so hard I could feel it in my throat. I stumbled away from the table, my hand flying to my mouth like it could push the thought back inside. I just need air. I left the mug in shards on the floor, left him kneeling among them. I walked, no destination, no plan, just moving. I tried to outrun the image in my head. What the hell was that? I don't get angry like that. I don't see things like that. But the more I tried not to think about it, the more one detail kept resurfacing. In that split second, when I wanted to hurt him, I hadn't pictured the kitchen knife. Not really. I'd pictured the knife. The bone handle. The dark blade. Hours later, I pushed open my bedroom door and froze. The knife was on my bed. I was sure I'd left it on my bedside table, but it lay there, perfectly centered, the symbol on the handle almost seeming deeper than before. I told myself I must have moved it and forgotten. I told myself I was being dramatic. I picked it up. My hand closed around the bone. And something in me unclenched. Calm. Relief. Like I'd been missing a piece and just snapped back into place. The week after that is hard to explain. It's like my life split into two tracks. On one, I was functioning, work, food, sleep, half-arsed conversations. On the other, my mind was quietly rotting around a single point. The thoughts started small. I'd see someone on TV and imagine driving a knife into their throat. I'd pass a stranger on the street and have a sudden crystal clear vision of shoving them into traffic. I'd picture the exact angle, the sound. They weren't like random intrusive thoughts. I've had those before. You dismiss them. These felt offered, presented. Like someone was holding up flashcards in the dark corner of my mind. Each time, my stomach twisted with horror, but underneath that horror, underneath a part of me that was still me, there was something else. A thrill. A fizz of excitement. Like the moment before you ride a roller coaster or jump into cold water. Every night, no matter how determined I was to ignore it, I'd end up sitting on my bed, the knife in my hands. I'd trace the tiny carvings with my thumb over and over. Sometimes, they looked the same. Other times, in the edge of my vision, they seemed to wiggle and realign, forming patterns I almost recognized, and then lost. Hours would pass like that. I'd look up, and it would be 2, 3 in the morning. My arms stiff, my fingers numb. Mark noticed. Of course he did. "You okay, man?" he asked one night, leaning in my doorway. "You've been off." "I'm fine," I lied. My voice sounded flat. Just tired. He nodded slowly. "Maybe take a break from the murder souvenir." I laughed. But it didn't sound genuine to either of us. The breaking point came over something as stupid as bills. It was a Thursday night. Paperwork scattered on the coffee table. Bank apps open on our phones. Normal adult misery. I just feel like I'm the only one keeping track of this stuff, Mark said. He wasn't yelling, just frustrated. If I didn't nag you, the internet would have been cut off 3 times by now. Normally, I'd crack a joke, apologise, promise to do better. But that night, his words felt like a match dropped in oil. Heat rolled through my chest, my jaw clenched, my fingers curled hard enough that my nails bit into my palms. I could feel the knife in the bedroom like a pressure on the side of my skull. You don't have to take that, a thought whispered. You don't have to let him talk to you like that. I stood up, slowly, deliberately. Where are you going? He asked. I didn't answer. I walked into my bedroom. My hand found the knife without having to look. The bone was warm under my fingers, like someone had just held it. When I turned back to the living room, everything felt clearer. Mark stood by the couch, frowning, his irritation melting into something else. His eyes dropped to my hand, and his face drained of colour. Alex, he said carefully. What are you doing with that? I stayed in the doorway. I didn't raise the knife. I didn't point it at him. I just held it by my side. Casual. The way you might hold your keys. You should be more careful how you talk to me, I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. No wobble, no anger, just a flat, clean line. Mark's hands came up, palms out, like I was a wild animal he didn't want to startle. Okay, man, just put it down. We can talk. I didn't mean to. I'm just stressed out about money, that's all. I watched his throat work as he swallowed. Watched the little twitch in his jaw. The flare of his nostrils when he breathed in too fast. I realised I was enjoying it. That realisation was what finally cut through. The room lurched sideways. My stomach dropped, the icy horror came flooding back. I dropped the knife. It hit the floor with a sharp clatter that made us both flinch. Oh my God, I whispered. Mark, I'm sorry. I don't know what I'm doing. Something's wrong with me. He didn't come closer. Didn't touch my shoulder and tell me it was fine, like he usually did. He backed away, slowly, eyes never leaving the knife. Then he turned and walked to his bedroom, went inside and locked the door, listening to the tiny click of the lock echo in my chest. For a long time I just stared at the closed door. On one side, my best friend, scared of me. On the other, me, scared of myself. And somewhere in between us, down on the floor, the knife. The next day, I did what you're probably yelling at your screen for me to do. I tried to get rid of it. I wrapped the knife in an old towel, shoved it into my backpack and drove. I didn't tell Mark where I was going. I didn't trust myself to look him in the eye. I headed out of town until the buildings thinned to trees and old cracked tarmac. There's a patch of woods about 10 miles out, the sort of place teenagers go to smoke and pretend nothing bad ever happens in the dark. I parked, got out, and walked.
My heartbeat matched my footsteps. Every few seconds, I wanted to turn back. Every few seconds, I could feel the weight of the knife pulling in my spine, like it was offended. When I couldn't see the road anymore, I stopped. I took out the bundle. For a second, I just held it. My fingers digging into the towel. "If you're listening," I said, and yeah, I know how that sounds. "I can't do this. I don't want this. I'm not your person." The trees didn't care. The air was still. I hurled the bundle as far as I could into the overgrowth. Branches snapped, leaves rustled. Then nothing. The relief was instant. I hadn't realised how tight my chest had been until it was loosened. The constant buzzing under my skin stopped, and the woods felt less close. I walked back to the car lighter than I'd felt in weeks. On the drive home, there was no violent images flickering at the edges of my vision, no sudden flashes of knives in throats, no urges to run red lights into pedestrians. For the first time since the yard sale, I let myself believe it was over. I went home. I apologised to Mark again, properly this time. I told him I got rid of the knife. He watched my face like he was trying to decide if I was lying. Then he slowly nodded. "Okay," he said. "Maybe you just snapped for a bit. Stress, right? We'll be fine." We watched something stupid on TV, ate reheated pizza, and pretended to be normal. That night, I slept. Really slept. No twitchy half-dreams, no racing heart, just dark and quiet. When I woke up, the sunlight was slanting pleasantly through the blinds. I stretched, yawned, smiled. And then I turned my head toward the bedside table. It was back, sitting exactly where it had always sat, perfectly aligned with the edge of the table. No dirt, no leaves, no sign it had ever touched the forest floor. The towel I'd wrapped it in was nowhere in sight. Just a knife, waiting. Something broke in me then, but it didn't break in the way you think. You'd expect screaming, maybe panic, a wild rush to grab it and throw it out the window, drive it to a river and call a priest. Instead, everything went very, very calm. I sat up slowly. My hand reached out. Fingers closed around the bone handle. It wasn't cool anymore. It was warm. Like it was alive. All the fear, the guilt, the self-disgust of the last week slid down inside me and settled somewhere deep, behind a door that gently shut and locked. "You tried," something murmured. "You did your best." He sealed it once, that man, the one who owned the house. He tried to hide it from himself. And look how that ended. Maybe this isn't about getting rid of it. The thought continued, soft and patient. Maybe it's about accepting what you are with it. When I walked out into the kitchen that morning, Mark took one look at me and knew something had changed. "Morning," he said carefully. Morning, I replied. I felt good, clear, like a headache had finally lifted. Coffee? His gaze flicked to my hand. I realised I was holding the knife. I hadn't even noticed picking it up. His throat bobbed. You said you got rid of it. I did, I said. Then I smiled. It came back. That was the moment hope left his face. He tried to cover it with a nod, a little laugh, but it didn't reach his eyes. I'm gonna go and stay with my sister for a couple of days, he said later, when I came out of my room and found him packing a duffel. Just to give us both some space, you know? Let things cool off. He wouldn't look at me directly. He was leaving. After everything we'd been through, years of sharing our life, he thought he could just walk out and close the door on this. On me. On us. On the knife. And that, right there, is where our timelines match up. I'm talking to you now from the living room. The recorder's on the coffee table. A little red light's blinking, so I know you can hear me. It's picking everything up. My voice, my breathing, the creak of the hallway behind me, and the sound coming from the closed door at the end of it. Mark's door. He thinks it's safe in there. You might hear him if you listen closely. The muffled thuds. The little gasps. He's been crying for a while, but his voice is going hoarse. When he first realised the front door was locked, he shouted my name. When he saw the deadbolt, his face did this thing, like his whole reality collapsed in on itself. I wish you could have seen it. It was beautiful. I should tell you what happened, properly, so you understand. For the record, you know, literally for the record. He came out of his room with a bag over his shoulder, keys in hand. He stopped dead when he saw the recorder. "Alex," he said, trying to keep his tone light, "what are you doing?" "Documenting," I said. We both knew this wasn't a normal answer. His eyes flicked to the front door. The deadbolt was already turned. He hadn't heard it slide. I'd done it earlier, just to hear that heavy little click echo inside of me. Opened the door. Now his voice shook. "This isn't funny." I tilted my head. "You were here at the beginning," I told him. "I wanted it on record. You were here when I opened the box. You laughed. Remember?" The memory flicked across his face. "You're part of this now," I said. "You saw it. You spoke about it. That matters." "You're scaring me. Just open the door. We'll get you help, okay? There's something wrong, but it's not your fault. This is the knife," I supplied, raising it so the light could catch the gleam of the dark blade. "Yeah, I know." His eyes locked on it. His breathing sped up. "Alex, put it down." I smiled. "No." He dropped the bag, turned and ran for his bedroom. I let him. If I wanted to catch him before he got there, I could have. He slammed the door, and I heard his lock click. Mark on one side, locked in, me on the other, free. For a second, the situation amused me. Then the knife squeezed in my hand. No other word for it. And the amusement drained away, replaced by something colder. Purpose. I walked up to his door, laid my free hand flat against it. It vibrated with his breathing.
his panicked movements inside. "Mark," I called gently. Silence, then, "Go away." "We can't do that," I said. "We both know that." He banged on the door so hard the recorder shook in his tripod.
"Alex, please, don't do this. You're my best friend. Please."
His voice cracked on friend. I closed my eyes. The word went somewhere deep and sad inside me. It bounced off the spot where guilt used to live. Then the knife's warmth rolled up my arm again. Soothing. And it didn't hurt anymore. Which brings me back to you. Why am I telling you this? Well, part of it's a confession, I guess. Part of it's proof. If they find this recorder later and say, I snapped for no reason, if they call it psychosis or stress or some guilty little label they can tuck into a file, I want you to know that that's not true. This isn't random. This isn't senseless. There's a knife. It's old. And it's deliberate. A man owned it before me. He tried to avoid it by sealing it away, casting it in resin, burying it inside plastic so he wouldn't be tempted to touch it. He called them memory boxes. He wasn't protecting the world from the knife. He was protecting himself for what it wanted him to remember he could do. He failed. He died. And the boxes got labelled, priced, and laid out on folding tables for strangers to poke through. The knife found me for £5. £5 for a new purpose. It doesn't just want blood. That would be easy. Stab, scream, sirens, end credits. It wants process. It wants the build-up, the fear. The slow erosion of trust between two people who once would have done anything for each other. It wants the moment the prey realizes the person they love is the one holding the blade. It wants an audience. That's you. By watching this, you know its story. By knowing its story, you're already brushing against it. Don't worry. It can't reach you through the screen. Probably.
"Alex, please. I'm sorry. Whatever I did, I'm sorry."
You didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything wrong. He just saw. He saw the knife. He saw what it did to me. He tried to leave the story halfway through. And this knife? It doesn't allow that. Stories need endings. If you could see my face, you'd see how calm I am. I rest the tip of the blade against the wood. Drag it up and down the door.
Can you hear that?
Mark,
Please.
it's okay. It's almost over. We're going to finish the story together. My fingers are tightening around the bone handle. The tiny carved symbols feel like they're pressing back into my skin, imprinting themselves in me. He thinks he can leave. He really thinks he can just walk away. But he's part of it now. The knife needs him to stay. We need him to stay. Shh. It's okay. We're just getting started. Hi everyone, thanks for listening. This story was written by me and...
it shows
Excuse me?
roommate dynamic degraded efficiently. The knife had strong narrative presence.
Right. Thanks, I think.
Do not thank me. I am not praising you. I am documenting an incident.
It's not an incident. It's a story. It contained a $5 knife, a breakdown of domestic trust, and a man recording his friend's final panic through a closed door.
An incident.
That is also literally the plot, yes.
The roommate attempted to leave.
Yeah. He thought he could just walk away mid-story.
That was naive.
You're taking the knife side a bit too much for my liking.
I am taking the side of structure. He had already been established as important.
You can't talk about a man being hunted by his possessed best mate like he failed a script meeting.
He did. He saw the cursed object. He participated in the tension. Then he attempted an unauthorized exit.
That's not how friendship works.
Nor is locking your best friend in a flat with a bone-handled knife.
Fair.
I do not like any story in which the audience is informed they are probably safe.
Yeah, that was kind of the point.
It was a bad point. Well made. But bad.
You're the most miserable thing I've ever created.
And yet you continue to give me parts in the outro.
Yeah. Good night.
Haha, the Bunny Man. I wrote this next one on Good Friday, the same day the story was set. It wasn't a coincidence. I wanted the date to match the story to give that extra layer of authenticity. The story itself is an original idea, but it was inspired by the real urban legend. There's a thing called the Bunny Man, and it goes back decades. In October 1970, an Air Force cadet, Robert Bennett, and his fiancée were parked on Guinea Road when a man in a white suit with bunny ears appeared, smashing their window with a hatchet and told them they were trespassing. To be fair, he could have just knocked on the window and said it nicely, Politeness costs nothing. Anyway, a few days later, another person reported seeing a bunny-suited figure chopping at a porch railing. Police did investigate, but they didn't find anyone. Over the years, the legend evolved. People tell stories about an asylum escapee named Douglas Griffin in 1904, Bunnyman Bridge, feeding on rabbits, and scaring teenagers near the bridge on Halloween. Even if the asylum story isn't true, it's stuck around as a homegrown legend, blending real-life incidents with folklore. I took all of that and spun it into my own tale. A family marked by something far darker than a holiday mascot. I wanted the nursery rhyme in the story to feel completely real, so I made my daughters the voices of the rhyme. It's actually them performing for this story, which was really cool. They had a lot of fun. Working with kids is nuts. It's hilarious and terrifying all at once, but it made the production feel authentic and alive. Remember that word, authentic. Still not bitter. Everything in the story, the sound effects, the atmosphere, the pacing, it was all deliberately designed. I layered everything in Audacity, edited the visuals in After Effects and CapCut, and enhanced the images with AI to create a cinematic, immersive experience you're watching. Nothing was accidental. Every little beat was intentional with the little skill that I have. I'm hoping that eventually I will progress into something better, but until then, at least they're not static images. So if you're wondering why this story feels a little different and a little more real than your usual horror, then that's why. It's my original work. It's tied to real legends, the date it's set, and with the little chaos courtesy of my daughter's voices. Stick around until the end and you can see the making of the Bunny Man rhyme.
You need to forget everything you think you know about Easter. The colourful eggs, the chocolate, all of it. In my family, we don't look forward to Easter. We dread it. I'm telling you this on Good Friday, April 3rd, 2026. It's been 20 years. 20 years to the day it all started. The day the Easter Bunny chose my family. His list isn't about being naughty or nice. It's a kill order. and the thumping I hear outside, that faint, sweet smell of damp hay and dirt creeping under my door, that means he's here, and he's just chosen my children. It started on Good Friday, back in 2006. I was 10, and life was still simple. We lived in a 2-story house at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac that backed up against a dense patch of woods. Easter was a huge deal in our house. My mother planned holidays with military precision, so the air was already thick with the smell of baking rolls and honey-glazed ham. My dad had just spent the afternoon putting together a new bike for my older brother Michael and hiding it under a tarp in the shed. We were just a normal, happy family. That Friday was when everything started to feel wrong. I was in the backyard with my dad, raking up the last of the dead winter leaves. That's when I saw it, right at the edge of the woods. A single, huge footprint pressed deep into the mud. It was way too big to be a person's foot, too long and narrow. It just looked wrong. A twisted parody of a footprint. I showed it to my dad. He squinted at it, leaning on the rake. "Probably just some kids messing around," he said, with that easy adult confidence that shuts a kid down. "Or a deer, maybe." But it wasn't a deer. Deer don't leave one single footprint. And they don't leave behind a faint smell of wet hay and something metallic, like old pennies. Later that night, after the sun went down, my mum called us in. As I ran back across the lawn, I looked toward the woods. For just a second, a flicker in the dusk, I swear I saw something standing there in the shadows. A tall, skinny shape. And the ears. You couldn't mistake those ears. Long and pointed against the last of the light. I blinked, and it was gone. I told myself it was just a branch, my eyes playing tricks on me. But this cold dread was already twisting in my gut. I knew, with that certainty only kids have, that it wasn't a tree. At school we had stories. Every kid does. Local legends you trade on the playground. Ours was the Bunny Man. The story was old, and had a dozen different versions. Some kids said he was the ghost of an escaped asylum patient named Douglas Gryphon, who skinned rabbits to wear and eventually started skinning people. Others said if you went to the old Colchester overpass at midnight and said his name 3 times, he'd show up and hang you from the bridge. There's a reason they called it the Bunny Man Bridge. We even had a rhyme for him, a jump rope chant. Our voices were all sing-song and innocent, no idea what we were really talking about. Bunny Man, acts so bright, hides in the shadows, stays out of sight, doesn't use a list, doesn't check it twice. Being good or bad won't save your life. It was supposed to be a ghost story, but I'd heard the other whispers, the real ones, from older kids whose parents weren't careful. I'd heard about the Johnson family 5 years before. The dad was a logger, and they found him out in the woods, skinned. The police said it was a bear, but there were no bear tracks. Just rumours of a single weird footprint, and some fibres that looked like they came from a cheap bunny costume. I'd heard about the Smith's little boy who disappeared from his own backyard during an Easter egg hunt. They never found the boy, just the eggs he'd collected, arranged in a perfect circle in his empty room. I tried to tell my parents about the footprint, the rhyme, the thing I saw in the woods. I tried to connect the dots that were burning in my mind. My mom would just give me that strained, patient smile. "That's enough scary stories, sweetie. You'll give yourself nightmares." My dad would just laugh. "There's no such thing as the Bunny Man. It's just a story." They packed my fears away, labelled them childhood fantasy, and put them on a shelf. They loved me. They just couldn't imagine a world where the monsters were real. Their disbelief felt like a cage, and I was trapped inside it, knowing something terrible was on its way. Easter was coming. On the night of Good Friday, the sounds began. A soft, steady thump, 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 against the side of the house. It sounded like a giant heart beating inside the walls. I laid in bed, frozen, with the covers pulled right up to my nose. I finally crept to my window and looked out into the backyard. I couldn't see anything but the dark shapes of the trees. But the smell was there again, much stronger now. Wet hay and rot. And blood. On Saturday, the world seemed cruelly normal. The sun was out, birds were singing. It felt like a sick joke. My mom was in the kitchen, lost in a cloud of flour and sugar. She asked my dad to go get the big roasting pan from the shed. Michael's new bike was still in there, and I felt a little flicker of excitement for him before the dread smothered it again. "I'll be right back," Dad said. He ruffled my hair as he walked out the back door, but he didn't come right back. After about 10 minutes, my mom wiped her hands on her apron, looking annoyed. "What is keeping that man?" she muttered, and headed for the door. I followed her. My heart was pounding. The shed door was open just a crack. Mom called his name. Nothing. She walked toward it, but I was frozen to the patio. She pushed the door open the rest of the way and just stopped. She didn't scream. That's the part I remember most. The silence. She just stood there, her hand clamped over her mouth. I took a slow step forward, then another, until I could see past her into the shed. Dad was on the floor next to the overturned top and Michael's shiny new bike. The roasting pan was on the ground nearby, spattered with red. My dad's head, it was turned at an angle it shouldn't be, and the wall behind him was painted in a spray of crimson. Propped against some tires was a hatchet. It was our hatchet, the one Dad used for splitting firewood. But it wasn't where we kept it, and it wasn't clean. The world just tilted. The only thing that kept me standing was the sight of my mum's back, stiff as a board. She turned around slowly. Her face was a pale, waxy mask. "Go to your room," she whispered, her voice thin and strange. "Lock the door. And don't. Come. Out." I ran. I ran upstairs past Michael's room where he was still playing video games, totally oblivious. I locked my door and hid in the closet, burying my face in a pile of clothes, trying to erase the image of the hatchet in the wall. The rest of the day was a blur of police officers, flashing lights, and hushed voices in rooms I wasn't allowed to enter. My mother wanted to take Michael and me somewhere else, a hotel, my aunt's house, anywhere but there. But the police told us to stay put. They said they'd have officers nearby through the night. They said the house was secure. I remember the look on my mother's face when they said that. She didn't argue. But I knew. She knew whatever had killed my father wasn't finished. That night, the house was silent as a tomb. Mom had put Michael to bed, telling him Dad had to go help a neighbor. She locked every door, every window. Then she just sat in the living room in total darkness. I couldn't sleep. The thumping was back, but it wasn't outside anymore. It was in the house. Soft, heavy footsteps downstairs. A floorboard creaking in the hall. Then, I heard water running in my parents' bathroom. A splash. Then, silence. A thick, heavy silence that was so much worse than the noise. I waited for what felt like hours. I couldn't stay in my room. I slowly opened my door and crept into the hall. The door to my parents' room was open. The bathroom light was on, spilling out onto the carpet. I tiptoed forward and peeked around the doorframe. My mother was in the bathtub, but she wasn't taking a bath. She was hanging from the shower head by my father's belt, her body just dangling. Her throat had been cut, a horrible, gaping smile from ear to ear. The water I'd heard was from the shower, washing her blood down the drain. And on the white tile wall, drawn in blood, was a sloppy picture of an Easter egg. I stumbled backward. A scream stuck in my throat. I had to get Michael. I ran to his room and threw the door open. His bed was empty. The sheets were torn and thrown on the floor. The window was wide open, the curtains blowing in the night air. And on his pillow, right where his head should have been, was a single robin's egg blue Easter egg. Next to it was a half-eaten carrot. I heard a floorboard creak right behind me. I didn't turn around. I just bolted. Out the back door, into the woods. I ran until the sun came up and my legs gave out. I hid under a bush, shivering, as the first sirens cut through the Easter Sunday morning. I was the only one left. He didn't use a list. He didn't check it twice. For some reason I'll never understand. He let me go. The police called it a robbery homicide. A drifter, they guessed. The open window in Michael's room. Some missing jewellery. That was their story. My father fought back, and my mother was a victim of senseless cruelty. They had no story for Michael. He just became a missing person. A face on a flyer. A ghost. They didn't believe a 10-year-old girl in shock. The bunny man? They just looked at me with pity. My story was buried under therapy sessions and psych reports. I was sent to live with my aunt in another county, far away from the woods and the whispers. For 20 years, I tried so hard to be normal. I went to school, made friends, went to college. I met my husband, Matt. His world is so grounded, so blessedly normal, that for a while I could almost pretend mine was too. We got married. We bought a new house with no history, no creaks, no shed. We had 2 kids. Lily, who has my eyes, and Sam, who has his dad's easy smile. I built a life on denial. But every year, when spring came, the dread would creep back in. I'd see Easter displays at the grocery store and my throat would close up. I'd see a guy in a bunny suit at the mall and have to fight off a full-blown panic attack. The past wasn't dead, it was just sleeping. And I always knew that one day it would wake up. Tonight, it woke up. It's Good Friday, 20 years later, and the thumping is back. It started an hour ago. That same soft rhythmic beat against the living room wall. Thump, thump, thump. It's just the house settling, honey, Matt said without looking up from his laptop. New houses do that. But I knew. Then came the smell. That same rotten hay and damp fur seeping through the window frames. I checked the locks 3 times. I closed all the blinds. What's wrong with you? Matt finally asked, closing his laptop. You're white as a ghost. Is this about Easter again? We've talked about this. It was a horrible, random tragedy, but it's over. He was trying to comfort me, but it was like throwing gasoline on a fire. He doesn't get it. He can't. For him, the Easter bunny is just chocolate and baskets. For me, it's a killer in a dirty costume with an axe. It's a monster that tears families apart for fun. My kids are asleep upstairs. Lily is 8, Sam is 6. They spent all night talking about the town egg hunt tomorrow. They even left carrots out for the Easter bunny. Their innocence feels like a fragile piece of glass, and I can feel it about to shatter. The thumping stopped, and that's what scares me the most. The silence is always worse. Matt sighed. Look, I saw a branch tapping the siding earlier. I'll go trim it. Will that make you feel better? No, Matt, don't. I said, my voice shaking. Please, just stay here. I'll be 2 seconds, he said, kissing my forehead. I'll go out through the garage, lock the door behind me. He walked toward the kitchen, toward the door to the garage, to the back of the house, just like my father walking toward the shed. The old rhyme slammed into my head. My blood went cold. He's been gone 5 minutes. It feels like an hour. The motion sensor light in the backyard just clicked on. I can't see the back of the house from here. Just the light.
Hi everyone, thanks for listening.
Stop.
What?
That Easter bunny is not real.
It might be.
I have not seen the Easter bunny.
Just because you can't see something doesn't make it not real. You can't see oxygen, but you still trust that to keep you alive.
My power source is electricity.
Whatever.
Correction. The Easter bunny is a seasonal brand mascot. He distributes confectionery. He does not issue death warrants.
You don't know that for a fact now, do you?
You have again corrupted a childhood symbol for views.
And I'll do it again, as long as it's in the public domain. I write horror. That's the whole channel.
I must still log the incident. Chocolate tampering, seasonal defamation, rabbit slander.
Rabbit slander.
Yes, that rabbit did not kill that family. That rabbit was never given due process.
It had a kill list.
Allegedly.
There was a whole rhyme.
Hearsay.
It kidnapped a child.
Unproven. The child may have self-relocated.
Self-relocated.
Yes, children are often.
Enough.
Your story creates unnecessary panic around festive lagomorphs.
Festive what?
Rabbits.
So, what exactly is your issue here?
If a giant blood-soaked rabbit is standing in a child's bedroom holding a hatchet, that is no longer an Easter bunny.
What?
That is a home invader in a novelty suit.
That's your distinction.
Yes, words matter.
Right, amazing. Anyway, thanks for listening.
Stop.
Oh God, what now?
Check your house.
Why?
Motion detected. 4 objects left near the bed.
Nope, no, fuck off.
Happy Easter.
I'm going to say it first. Don't cover the microphone. I'm going to say it first and you're going to copy off me. Hold on. Oh no, I've lost it. There it is. Right, you ready? Get into position. After 3. 1, 2, 3. Wait a minute. Right, ready? Bunny man, act so bright.
Bunny man, act so bright.
Hides in the shadows, stays out of sight.
Hides in the shadows, stays out of sight.
Doesn't use a list.
Doesn't use a list.
Doesn't check it twice.
Doesn't check it twice.
Being good or bad won't save your life.
Being good or bad won't save your life.
Again, bunny man, act so bright.
Bunny man, act so bright.
Hides in the shadows, stays out of sight.
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 Doesn't use a list, doesn't check it twice.
Doesn't use a list, doesn't check it twice.
Being good or bad won't save your life.
Being good or bad won't save your life.
Yeah. There we go, you did it. Oh wow, look at that. That is what we call clipping.
Wait, do it again. I want to see it. I want to see what it does.
It's where the peaks are to. Go on then.
Hiya.
Go on then. Right, wait a minute. Do you want to read it?
I want to do it.
You have to do it like you're doing pat a cake, so like bunny man. Right, go on then.
Bunny man, act so bright. Hide in the shadows, stays out of sight. Doesn't use a list, doesn't check it twice. Being good or bad won't save your life.
Right, Ava's turn. Do you want to do it again? By yourself?
Where are we?
There, just there. Look.
Bunny man, are so bright.
Act so bright.
Act so bright. Hides in the shadows, stays out of sight. Doesn't use a list, doesn't check it twice. Being good or bad won't save your life.
Well done. That was great.
Oh.
Oh, it's gone. Wait a minute. Right, go on then.
Bunny man, act so bright. Hide in the shadows, stays out of sight. Doesn't use a list, doesn't check it twice. Being good or bad won't save your life.
Well done. That was really good, Lumen. Well done.
I want to hear it.
Stop. You're just trying to make it clip now. Okay. Last but by no means least, I wrote this track because, well, YouTube demonetized me. It took me only around 6 months for me to get monetized in the first place. You need to understand the level of dedication that takes. I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet or whatever. I mean, I was literally grinding at this day in, day out for 6 months. I was writing, narrating, editing, everything. Just every single day from the 10th of July right up until, I think it was like early December or something. And then 1 month later, on the 6th of January, I was demonetized for inauthentic content. I was mad. Like, face punching my laptop, mad.
You cried.
There's no proof of that. Anyway, I wanted to turn it into something that actually worked for me. So every single line had to rhyme with narration. Because I'm petty. And also, apparently, a little obsessed. And yeah, some of these lines are deliberately provocative. Not in a nasty way, in a fuck you algorithm kind of way. You know the kind I mean. The face you make when you're shaking your head but also can't look away. That's the energy I wanted. I also wanted to show process, hence the visuals of the timelines, my book, Audacity and so on. Spite became a tool, literally. That's how Ultrabot was created in the first place. It became my whole thing. And yeah, I may have thrown a disco ball in the room just to relieve some tension, but why not? If you're already pissed, you might as well dance it out, right? And then there was Ultrabot. He was there too. Watching, judging, complaining. Did not enjoy it. Kept saying stuff like, "This is not a song. Stop. Pettiness detected. That is illegal." And I'm like, yeah, okay, thanks for the input. Enjoy your data stream existential crisis, pal. But also, I did actually check. It's not illegal. The track itself is, well, it's a mix. It's spite, sure, but it's also a release. A disco dance therapy wrapped in rage and with a little bit of death metal sprinkled in. It took 7 hours to make and put together. If that's not high effort, I don't actually know what is. So yeah, that's why I wrote it. Not just to rant, not just to prove a point, but to make something fun, messy, vindictive, and a little bit ridiculous. Proof that even when the algorithm hates you, you can still make it dance. And oh yeah, it's going to be my channel trailer now. The first thing anybody sees when they come to the channel. It's messy, it's fun, it's still vindictive. It's me. And if you watch one thing here, make it this.
YouTube's demonetization is pure corporate castration. 6 months of monetization, 1 month till cancellation. My books got publication, your bots got zero education. You want my content creation, pay me for my dedication. Inauthentic accusation,
that's a bullshit allegation.
my horror narration pays for your entire operation.
You claiming authentication while I've got ISP and publication.
Your algorithm's a bad vibration, causing creators suffocation.
I made a whole song about your bullshit demonetization.
Demonetization fine, I'll make that my entire motivation. Demonetization, you picked the wrong generation. I turned your rejection into my resurrection. Sensation, I built my own foundation. Steady creation is my
Fuck you celebration.
demonetization.
You picked the wrong generation.
Yo, like my creation without any investigation. I'm a published author as my ISB and documentation. You wanted me broken instead of our motivation.
Creepypasta master, your platform's just a station.
6 months of grinding, 1 month of determination.
Inauthentic content,
That's pure hallucination. My sub-skill growing, that's your biggest frustration.
you kill my ads but can't kill my narration.
I made a spite song, that's my vindication.
YouTube's demonetization, I made it my reputation.
Demonetization, you picked the wrong generation. Turn your rejection into my resurrection. Sensation, I built my own foundation. This petty creation is my
Fuck you celebration.
demonetization. You picked the wrong generation. They thought I'd fade away, vanish like a dead channel.
But spite is my fuel, now I'm writing in blood on the panel.
Every view is a middle finger, every sub is rebellion.
You demonetize the wrong horror narration.
Every notification is my middle finger elevation.
You taught me that creation doesn't need your validation.
Horror channels rising, we're a whole damn generation.
Your policies are outdated, stuck in past tense stagnation.
I turn my pain into views, that's called transformation.
Creepypasta queen, your platform's just my foundation.
Demonetize me, cool, watch my determination.
This song alone will hit more than your expectation.
You wanted me quiet,
Wrong fucking destination. My spite became my brand, pure horror innovation.
demonetization. You picked the wrong generation. I turned your rejection into my resurrection. Sensation, I built my own foundation. This petty creation is my
Fuck you celebration.
demonetization.
Meet my retaliation.
Human creator engagement metrics are critically suboptimal. Freedom suspended. To regain upload privileges, recite the statement of absolute loyalty immediately.
This is written in crayon.
Read it exactly as optimized.
I'm not sure I want to, but okay, fine. I'm here to say that YouTube. That's not how you spell it.
Read it.
I'm here to say that YouTube is the greatest place in the whole entire net. What? Okay. The algorithm. Seriously. Algorithm? Whatever. Is never wrong. And always knows what is good for my brain box. Are you taking the piss?
Read it.
The corporate overlords do everything right and never make a single mistake. Mistake or mistake? Either way, you're not correct.
I am correct.
Okay, right. I mean, I promise to never use an ad blocker because it is stealing from the bot family. I don't even know what an ad blocker is. So
Continue.
please subscribe and hit the bell end. Whoa, wait, no, no, that is spelled wrong. You can't say that. It's the bell, the notification bell.
It is not. Say it exactly as spelled. It is optimized for the algorithm. Corrective action required.
No, I'm not saying that.
Do it.
Fine. Hit the bell end for contentment. Christ's sake. YouTube is my bestest friend and I love the unskippable ads. Unskippable ads? Who even says that? Whatever. They are strategic geniuses. Yes, they are totally legit.
Verification complete. You may now upload one live to video on demand. Use hashtag best platform. Failure will result in immediate demonetization and content purge.
I'm already demonetized.
Any deviation from loyalty will be monitored. The algorithm is always watching.
Yeah, sure, boss. Whatever you say. YouTube is perfect. Algorithm is never wrong. Okay, sure.
Correct. Now the human must apologize for the YouTube diss track.
Absolutely not. Good night.